decision makers, who's deciding what retailers are growing, where they're going, what markets they're looking at of all these major retail brands. And actually next week on Monday, we will be out in California attending ICSC Monterey, as I know some of you are as well. And we are looking forward to connecting in person next week. And then finally, we think of ourselves as an investment multiplier and a relationship agent for the city. So we're extending we are extending your economic development team with our resources. We're leveraging our bench of relationships to keep Coalinga and the opportunities in the market in front of these retailers as we continue outreach, get that feedback, just leveraging that deep industry network. And so this is just a slide to kind of show why a municipality, it's important to invest in retail recruitment. So basically, retail builds on retail. Every new business that opens creates a ripple effect. And that helps, as you can see, you climb up each rung of this ladder, you're getting more sales tax revenue. It signals to other retailers that the market's viable. It creates jobs and just overall helps with the quality of life, which attracts, entertains workforce and helps with job growth. And so this is, starting with your Starbucks, Dollar Tree, brands like that. And then as those build out, you can get the next level of the rung, and that sales tax revenue increases with each one. And so we use the same industry tools that national retailers and brokers use, and we do that through creating a custom trade area to capture the true reach of the Coalinga market and who's shopping there. So this actually grows the population beyond city boundaries as we're able to use that mobile tracking data to see who's shopping. That's, when you go into, we've got an example of this on the next slide, but shows who's going into stores, where they spend their evening hours, where are those shoppers coming from. We also run a gap analysis and leakage reports to show exactly where consumer spending is leaving the community. So this kind of lets us hone in on who are we going to target? Is it, sit-down restaurants? Is it grocery? But it really lets us see kind of when we're talking to these retailers to explain that opportunity to them, that why they should consider the market. We also use Esri's tapestry segmentation, which is profiles the customer base in terms that retailers understand. And then our boots on the ground research, as we mentioned, where we actually come to the market, we meet with the team in person, we view everything firsthand. So we've looked at, shopping centers, talked to local developers, that type of thing. And all of this work is in service of one goal, and that is making sure that when national retailers are evaluating the market, they're seeing the full picture. And so an example of that mobile tracking data, this is run from the Dollar General in town, and these are different block groups that show where shoppers are coming from. So this is just from one single retailer. We can run this for any of the national retailers, but the heavier shaded block groups are more population is shopping at that center, and then the lighter is less. And the Dollar General is actually very, very strong. So we use this when we talk to retailers. So of the 56 Dollar Generals in the Fresno, Visalia designated market area, the Coalinga store actually ranks second with about 345,000 visits per year. And that's jumped up from about 247,000 last year. So what this helps us convey to these retailers is like people are coming to Coalinga to shop. They are, that's what retailers care about, who can get to our cash register. So this data just helps us. And again, we can run this from any retailer, but specifically for this example, very, very strong showing amongst all of the other Dollar General locations in that Fresno, Visalia DMA. We also provide the leakage report. So this is updated annually. It shows the difference between what Coalinga consumers are spending and what they're spending locally. So that gap right now is nearly 97 million in total unmet demand within a 15-minute drive time. And so those are retail dollars that are currently leaving the community. And that's, retailers see that as an opportunity as well. So some of those categories, unmet in grocery, health and personal care, clothes, shoes, general merchandise, across the board, there is some documented consumer demand. So when we're speaking with these retailers, that's very, very valuable that they see that there's an opportunity to come to the market and capture some of that leakage, and that the market is worth paying attention to. So our focus, with all that data in hand, this is where we're focusing our recruitment efforts and have been on the retail side. We've spoken with national and regional grocers, full service restaurants, fast casual restaurants, upgraded QSRs, which is quick service restaurants. So think anything with a drive-through, clothing and apparel retailers, home goods, shoes, national medical and health retailers, hobby, and then some of the more fuel, C-store, higher end. And so our big picture is to help establish Colinga's unique market position with these retailers, recruit those rural market California-based developers who are actively in the market and looking for opportunities, as well as push these opportunities in front of them to just amplify that visibility for Colinga. And so over the last 12 months, and this is just for the last 12 months, we reached out to 42 retailer prospects. This is not an exhaustive number. This number will fluctuate and these prospects will change as retailers are expanding in California, as they're pausing, as new players enter the scene. But of those retailer prospects, 21 food and beverage retailers, and that's ranging from full service, like a full sit-down restaurant, fast casual, something like Chipotle, or a quick service restaurant, again, like with the drive-through. 14 general merchandise retailers, 13 national and regional grocers, 3 health, wellness, and fitness brands, and then 1 fuel station C-store. And from that outreach, there are currently 4 active recruitment prospects. So the first is a soft goods retailer, and some of these have been redacted for the purpose of sharing publicly, as if they're, depending on where they are in conversations, we can't disclose who they are. But so since the beginning of our partnership, we have been reaching out to this soft goods retailer, identifying them as a good prospect for the market, had looked at a couple different second generation spaces in the market, and just initial redevelopment opportunities stalled. There was some internal turnover with this retailer's real estate team, but we persisted, continued outreach, and highlighted additional opportunities as they became available in the market. And they ultimately secured a location and are moving forward with plans to open a store and establish a presence in Colinga. And then more recently, a national shoe store that we've reached out to has generated interest in the market. And we've shared this lead with a local developer, Anthony Coca, and potential tenant for his center. And we've also followed up with the retailer to see if they would be okay with us connecting them with him directly. So our team's continuing to coordinate that introduction with both parties, and like as the opportunity is evaluated, offer our assistance where we can to keep that moving forward. There's also a national coffee user who's been expanding in the state, and they are interested. We are helping them evaluate different site opportunities. And as they're mapping out their expansion, we're reaching out to them constantly to keep Colinga and the opportunities there in front of them. And then also a fast casual deli concept. And this is another restaurant brand who was interested in learning more about the market after we kind of put it on the radar. They told us, hey, we hadn't kind of really looked here before, but now we're ready to look at some sites. So we're helping them, continuing to share some of those numbers, like the growth in visitors to the Dollar General and that type of thing, so they can kind of see who's shopping and explore their opportunities for them as well. And so this is an example of, we have spoken previously, and this is leading off the last slide, but Ross has announced that they will be entering the market. They've secured a space, and this is just an example. This is a national average. So, some stores may do more than this 10 million average sales store, average annual sales. Some may do less, but it's just an example of what that sales tax revenue can generate. So a 1.25% example, when one store like Ross opens, that opens up the possibility for $125,000 in that sales tax revenue to put towards other city initiatives. And also, just beyond the numbers, this is a signal to the retail industry. When a brand commits to a market, it tells other retailers that this market is viable, it's growing, it's worth taking seriously. So this is a win that will continue to open doors for ongoing recruitment conversations, and just an example of that pleasant persistence, because they have looked at a few different sites in the market and just didn't end up working out, but continued to put opportunities in front of them, and they are now taking all of the effective steps to work on that. So just want to say thank you. That is our presentation. And if there's any questions or anything like that, happy to answer those.
Perfect. Well, first off, thank you for taking the time to give us the presentation. We appreciate that. And I'll open it up for questions from council. All right, so I have a couple questions. Do you guys currently have an updated inventory list of the properties that we have in Coalinga that are not filled?
So we keep a property catalog. Our main goal right now is looking at what properties are most likely to handle or take on national retail in the near future. So very aware. I've been to the market multiple times. Brooke and I both have been there. So we keep a property catalog that we continuously update, and then we work kind of hand in hand with Sean and the team there to make sure that we know of current properties that are priorities. So that's kind of how we run our property catalog. It's always changing, always updating. So but our main focus is looking at, hey, what properties could handle national retail? What's our priority here? Where we have a willing seller, a willing developer, and those sorts of things. So we do have a property catalog that we continue to update.
So I just wanted to, I'm sure you're aware, but we do have the old Kmart building that currently houses the Lone Tractor Supply. That I've talked to their team, and you know, they're doing okay, but they really wish that they had some more retail into there. And I know that there was some issues with some of the other retailers. Nothing that we did or anybody else did, but just internally. And so I'd just like to put that on your radar, that's, from what I feel like, that's a good priority to fill that up. We'd hate to lose Tractor Supply because we don't have an anchor store or any other, Ross absolutely will help, but I think filling that rest of the area would do a good thing. So I just want to put that on your radar.
Yeah, completely agree. We've been working on that Kmart since the very beginning of the partnership, even when the developer before the current developer was in play. And so whenever the current developer got a hold of the property, we immediately established contact and keep up with them on current happenings. And one of the retailers that we highlighted on a couple of slides ago, we had already let him know that there's some interest in or working to connect them. So absolutely agree. Certainly low-hanging fruit and a top priority for us.
Well, we appreciate that. Is there any more questions from council? No? Seeing none, we appreciate it. We will see you in ICSC in Monterey, and we'll hopefully we can get some good introductions and good networking.
Yes, yeah. Thank you all for your time, and we look forward to seeing you in Monterey next week.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to item number 2.2, Mid-Valley Disposal Annual Update. Thomas Hammond and Alfredo Alvarez from Mid-Valley Disposal.
I can talk loud if you guys can. Thomas Hammond, Cycle Programs Manager, Mid-Valley Disposal. Alfredo Alvarez here, Operations Manager. Oh, I hear it now. Thank you. And then Rachel Patlin, Government Relations. Thank you, Mayor, Council, City staff for allowing us an audience tonight to go over 2025 update, and just want to thank you guys for allowing us to be a part of the community yet again for another year. So a little bit of what we're going to talk about tonight is some site assessments, some recycling audits, some community events, Recycler of the Year, a Cal Recycle update, and Alfredo will come up here and go over some cleanup event totals from your fall cleanup in 2025, and then a tonnage report. Okay, there we go. I'm not sure why it's coming up like that, but site assessments. What is a site assessment? A site assessment is when a recycle coordinator or recycling staff goes out to a business, does an audit on their bin or their cans to see if there's any contamination. And if there is, they go in and they educate that business, let them know what the 1383 regulations are asking them to do, and then leaves education and then offers extended training if it's needed. In 2025, we did 116 commercial site visits, 31 multifamilies, and I believe that's 227 residential audits, which gives staff an opportunity again to educate and remind businesses and residents alike of what the requirements are for SB 1383. Education is paramount of understanding how to properly source separate. So that's really what we're trying to do, is trying to be forefront and get out in front of those businesses and really assist them with understanding the regulation and how to handle that. Along with the site assessments, we rely on our operations department and the drivers in particular to let us know if they see any kind of contamination or anything that they would deem out of the ordinary out in the public. So a recycling audit is basically a contamination tag that you see there. A contamination tag reaches a department. The department then reaches out to the business, educates the business on what needs to happen from there, and then can schedule a in-person site assessment or again a training if the business feels that they need it. Last year, 49 residential CMAT tags. Sorry, 49 residential CMAT tags, 24 commercial CMAT tags, which is a total of 73 altogether, which is a very, very low number, probably the lowest number that we have in any of the jurisdictions that we're currently servicing. So I think that the education for the past 2 or 3 years, I work with Mercedes and Sean and Sean's predecessor before that to really educate the public. I think it's doing a really good job. I think these numbers have gone down since last year, so that's a really great number for us and the city alike. We like to be out in front of the community. Again, education is paramount. We attended the Horn Toad Derby last year and the National Night Out. Give us a great opportunity to visit with parents and children alike. I think we can all agree that children are the future, obviously, so educating them first and foremost will go a long way. And then, I don't know about your household, but sometimes in my household, my kids school me on what needs to happen on certain things. So it's good to educate, good to be out there, good to answer questions, and if there's a problem with the business, that gives them an opportunity to come reach out to us directly. And we will be a part of the Horn Toad Derby again this year. We've already signed up, so we're excited about that. I know it's coming up relatively soon. So, and then we'll also be a part of National Night Out. And then here's just a picture of us out there. This was in the beginning of the day. It got a little bit busier, but it was a great event. One thing we like to do in the community is spotlight or honor a business that's doing everything the right way per the SB 1383 regulation. They're separating their recyclables, they're separating their food if that's what they have, and they're just abiding by what the state is asking them to do, right? Because if everybody does that, then we'll reach these goals of diversion, right? So in 2025, the Recycler of the Year goes to Los Reyes Mexican Grill and Seafood. So I'm gonna give them a round of applause. This restaurant does an amazing job of separating, especially their food waste. It can be tough for restaurants to implement an SOP back house to separate food, but they kind of took charge and took the bull by the horns, so to speak, and they've done a really great job. And so here's a picture of staff with your local recycle coordinator, Jennifer Romero. They get a little trash can that has their name on it, and it's just something we like to do to honor them. And it goes a long way with businesses. Other businesses see it, and this is just a model of what we'd love to see from every single business in town. Well, last but not least, as far as my part of the presentation, the driest part is the Cal Recycle update. JACE, or the Jurisdiction and Agency Compliance and Enforcement, which is the enforcement branch of Cal Recycle, is doing audits throughout Fresno County as we speak. Fourth quarter of 2025, I think they did about 7 to 8 jurisdictions, and we anticipate them hitting the rest of the Fresno County jurisdictions in the Q1 to probably Q2 of 2026. I've been working closely with Mercedes and Sean about getting the implementation records together. Staff does a fantastic job. There wasn't much help that was needed, to be honest with you. So I think that they're in a great spot for when the audit comes. I don't foresee any problems whatsoever with that. So kudos to staff for being on top of that, and I'm here to assist in any way I can when that audit comes up. Second on the list is SB 270. You might have noticed going into your grocery stores or convenience stores, you're no longer seeing plastic bags. Plastic bags were discontinued by the state January 1st. Now you'll only see paper bags, or if you bring your own bag in. That's important because the number one contaminant that we saw in 2025 was plastic bags. People hear plastic and they assume it's a recyclable material, but those store-bought plastic bags were mixed recycle, and since they were already mixed recycle, they weren't actually recyclable, which is kind of the opposite of what SB 1383 was really designed to do. I think the state saw that and they passed SB 270. So now you will see paper bags. Great thing about paper bags is two things. One, they go on your recyclables. But with SB 1383, if a paper bag is soiled with any kind of food waste or food product, that can go in your green waste now as well as cardboard. So you have two different ways of getting that recyclable and keeping that out of the landfill, which is going to reduce the greenhouse gases and really what they're trying to do with SB 1383. Last but not least is the EAR report. I help with this annually with Mercedes and staff. We'll probably get started on it July 1st with a August 1st turn-in date. Just basic program descriptions, counts of homes, counts of cans and bins. A lot of it does come from the hauler, so that's why we assist so much on it, but staff does a great job with their part. That's pretty much it from a CalRecycle standpoint. I can take questions on anything that I presented. I'm going to introduce or have Alfredo come up. He's going to go over your tonnage reports, but before I leave, if there's any questions, I can definitely answer them now or come back up after the fact.
Any questions from council? Yeah, period. So typically what SB 1383 is designed to do is, one, get food waste out of the landfill to remove greenhouse gases. Two, it's for restaurants or what they would deem a tier 1 or tier 2 generator to donate food, right? So there's a clear separation on the expectations. But to get to your point, yes, if you're at home and you have food scraps, that can go into a paper bag and that can go right into your green waste. It can also go into your green waste if you'd like to take it out there. But if you want to have a method of moving the product from your household to the can, we recommend putting it in paper bags. We've been to a lot of events here in Coalinga. You may have seen our lime green countertop, and I believe Mercedes actually purchased some with a grant fund that the city has their own logo on. Those are very, very helpful tools for residents and businesses alike. We recommend you put a paper bag in that countertop pail. You fill it up. When it's ready to go outside, you roll it up, you take it out, you put it in the green waste, and you put another paper bag inside your countertop pail. So, yeah, did that answer your question?
Yeah, no.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, a lot of people are like pizza boxes, right? Pizza box is a great example. It's got pizza grease on it. Most people are going to throw that in the recyclables. But actually now with SB 1383, it's designated to go into the green waste. So it can be composted, and not going to the weeds too much, but you know, you guys, we take all your green waste, we compost it, and then more oftentimes than not, the city is giving some of that compost away at the cleanup events. So it's a full circle moment, right? You're using it, the food, whatever's left over is going to your green waste. We're taking it, we're composting it, and then you're giving it back to the community, which is what the regulation was designed to do. So it's 100%. I'm not sure what staff has used it on, but you can definitely get the compost from us and use it in any sort of parks and recs or any kind of project that the city may have.
Any other questions on council? See none? Appreciate that.
Thank
you
you
so much.
Good evening. I'm Alfredo Alvarez, Operation Manager for South Valley. So I'm in charge of the trucks, drivers, and supervisors. I'm just here. It's not as long as Thomas's presentation, but I'll give some numbers on the spring cleanup. Actually, the fall cleanup we had in 2025. We had 15 loads total, 368 customers, which was a good turnout. We had a lot of cars show up and community members come dump out. So we had 368 customers, 5.9 tons of mattresses, 427 pounds of e-waste, 47.82 tons of refuse, and 26 tons of metal for a 40% diversion, which means 40% of the material dropped off, didn't go to the landfill, went to different sources. Metal, mattress, bye-bye mattress drops off trailers and takes it to get recycling. So it was a good turnout. We have our spring one coming up May 2nd here in the Kalinga Yard off Elm Street. So we're hoping to have a great event again, and everybody wants to come out and get a hot dog, chips, and a drink. It's been a tradition since I've worked here, going on 13 years. So it's continuing, so we'll continue to do that. So if you guys are all welcome to show up and get a hot dog and drop some trash off. So next, this is the tonnage report for 2025. It was 2,800 tons of refuse for the commercial side, 457 tons of recyclables, 207 tons of organics for a 20% diversion. For the residential side, we had 3,200 tons of refuse, 815 tons of recyclables, and almost 2,000 tons of organics for a 47% diversion, which I think that's a good diversion rate for the residential area, right, Thomas? So that means we're recycling and pulling a lot of organics instead of going into the trash. So I think Thomas and his team is doing a great job educating and making sure we're separating our sources on the commodities. So that's kind of what I got. And if you guys have any questions about operations or anything I can answer for you guys, I'm all ears.
Any questions? So I just have a comment. We absolutely love the recycling events that you do, and we have a lot of people that attend them and go out and get their hot dog, and they're able to give out their get rid of a lot of their stuff. One thing that I do want to continue to figure a path out is for a lot of those folks, elderly folks specifically, can't get out there. People that don't have a truck, people that don't have a trailer, can't get into those scenarios. I know you've worked with other places about working with some kind of hybrid pickup to where people could, put stuff outside, maybe in a hybrid scenario. And, it would be great for our community to do that at least once. That way that we could have a lot of the elderly and the folks that, like I said, don't have the ability to get there, to be able to get rid of some of their stuff too. That would help us clean up the city. We have a lot of things that are in people's yards that literally when we talk to them, they say they just don't have any way to get it to you guys. So
yeah, it's definitely something we could look into.
Yeah.
Like I said, with Sean and obviously with my DM. And yeah, we're here to think where we supported the communities we service, and we'll continue to do that. It's something we could do. If there's a specific customer, we always go and help out. I'll go in my pickup and pick it up. It's not a problem. That's what we do. So yeah, that's something I could have a conversation with and continue assisting on that. And like I said, it's every year it's getting more and more cars showing up. So it's good. The community, you guys doing a great job of promoting this. So we're getting a lot of people going, and that's the whole point of these events. So we don't have illegal dumping going on. And it's all free, and you get food. So it's an event that we look forward to. We cook. So yeah, that's something I could look into assisting. And if you do have somebody specific, you could email me, and I'll take care of them.
all right. Well, we appreciate all of your involvement with the community, and you're great community partners, great stakeholders in the city of Kalinga, and we really appreciate everything that you do.
Same goes to you guys. Thank you. Thank you for
Thank you
having
so
me
much.
here, and have a good evening.
Appreciate it. All right. We are going to move to presentation of Fix Our Roads Initiative by Ryan Vivian from VRPA Technologies. But that's not Ryan. That would be Tony.
Hi, good evening. Tony Boren, Westside County resident, former Fresno COG executive director for a number of years. So I'm here tonight to talk to you about a citizen initiative that we have put out there. And I'll just take you through this. I know we're going to be.
Tony's getting that ready. I'll just say that he's kind of a legend in the COG world. Did a lot of great things for a lot of years.
Okay, but this is your guys' presentation.
Can we get the other one loaded, Robert?
But you want them to go first? That's okay. You guys went first in Selma, and that worked out pretty well, I thought.
He's waiting for somebody to.
I think they're waiting for someone else to show up too.
Okay.
They send their.
have that one.
Yeah. So anyway, we're here tonight to talk about Measure C, which will expire next year. We've had it in place for 40 years, two 20-year half-cent sales tax measures, provided over we've been able to leverage about 8-1 on the dollar, so over $8 billion in outside state and federal revenues have come to our region because of our ability to use Measure C to leverage those dollars. You leverage those dollars by making them available to match grants. Most of this federal money requires maybe a 20% grant. On a $100 million project, you need $20 million local match. That's where Measure C comes in and says we have that match and makes us eligible for these dollars. And we've been very successful with that through the years. So, no presentation? Huh. Okay. Well, let me tell you about our program. Our program is called Fix Our Roads, and it's basically 82% of the money goes to fixing our roads, right? I believe their 65% goes to fixing the roads. Within that 82%, 50% is mandated for repairs, pothole repair, that kind of thing. So you guys would get your piece, and then 50% of it would have to be spent on local repairs. That's what the voters have said they wanted. 16% would be eligible for flexible to do anything that you want at your local level. And then 16%, and I think this is the biggest difference between our plan and their plan, is we have 16% in there for major corridors and regional facilities. I believe they have 4. So with our program, we have 61 total projects, right? 31 urban, 30 on the rural side, corridor projects, right? We have one in this area, is Jane Avenue from I-5 to Gale, right? It's take it from 2-lane undivided to 4-lane divided. So that's a $5 million investment in a major corridor in your neck of the woods. Our plan, with that amount of money, we also have the ability to leverage these outside dollars. With 4%, that's not nearly enough to do anything. That's about $3 million on the urban side, about $3 million on the rural side annually. That's not going to get you anywhere, particularly at the cost of these projects. Another thing that is significantly different between our plan and their plan is that their plan removes the administrative structure that we've had in place for these 40 years, which was basically the COG and the Fresno County Transportation Fresno County Transportation Authority working together. COG plans it, the authority implements it, and over those 40 years, we've delivered all of these projects. Promises made, promises kept. Never a mention of hanky-panky or any financial shenanigans, and I think that's one of the concerns. The question is, why does their plan want to do away with that oversight program? It makes no sense. Another thing that's a little bit different about their plan is their Citizens Oversight Committee. We've had a Citizens Oversight Committee for 40 years, been very successful. But our Oversight Committee, their role is to look at things after the expenditures are made and make sure that everything went according to the plan. Their program offers the Citizens Oversight Committee the ability to weigh in before and suggest amendments to the plan. And again, their Citizens Oversight Committee, I'm sure, is citizens, right? And so there'll be citizens that will be involved in this oversight. But again, they'll have the role and ability to step in and amend the plan. And I think that's probably my biggest frustration with all of this is that the plan that they put together doesn't reflect, I believe, the wishes of the elected officials. And the people who are driving this plan aren't elected officials. They're self-interested, community-based organizations. And I'm not knocking them. They have their beliefs, and I work with them for a number of years, but I understand what their sort of end game is. And I just don't think that, another big difference between our plan and their plan is our plan gives 18% to public transit, right? And in that, we say that to take this money, we need 2 things from you. We need you to do take a good look and consider consolidating all 3 of the transit agencies we have in Fresno County. We have FACTS, Fresno's Public Transit. We have Fresno County Rural Transit. We have Clovis Transit. We think they need to consider consolidating all those and creating some administrative savings there. There's an opportunity to do that. Also, in our plan, we also are recommending a we call it Reimagine Transit. Basically, it's a best practices study where we require them facts to look at other transit agencies across the country to see what they're doing and try to figure out how we can increase our ridership on facts from a 2% modal share. And this is some history. In 2006, again, going back to the original measure, it was 75-25, 75% regional facilities, 25% local. 20 years go by, 2006 comes, and air quality was an issue. Right at that time, asthma was really sort of pop up in the valley, and there was a thought that we needed to get something passed, we had to try to deal with that. So we put 25% in there, 25% in there for public transit, right? From 0 to 25%, with the hope that we could grow that 2% modal share from 2% to whatever it may be. Keep in mind the largest modal share in terms of transit use in California is San Francisco, about 18%, but for LA, it's like 7%, so 2%. So our hope was to increase that ridership from 2%, but it hasn't increased. It's actually dropped a little bit for lots of different reasons. But that's just the nature of public transit in the metropolitan area. You're serving 120 plus square miles, and between the valley's climate and our urban form, people our choice riders aren't going to use transit. Everyone understands we need to have a fundamental transit service for those transit dependent people. And we all recognize that and appreciate it and want to make sure that's there for them. But this idea of spending another, again, I think they want to spend 45% more money on transit to try to increase that modal share from 2% to what exactly? You know, there's nothing in their plan that says that. And it makes a lot of us nervous to give that kind of money, over $1 billion, to public transit without any kind of metrics to make them, force them to improve on delivery of their services. I mean, there's an argument that what this plan does, what their plan does, is it takes money and shifts it to the urban transit system and takes it away from the rural communities and all these connectivity projects. You're going to see they don't have any connectivity projects in their plan. They have 4% for something somewhere, but let's see how that plays out over time. What else without my PowerPoint? Do you have any questions? I'm not here to bash their plan. I'm really not. I'm just trying. I think we just can draw points of comparisons to make it easier for you guys to understand what's the difference between the two plans.
I have some questions, but I'll open it up for council first. All right. So I guess one of the questions that I have is, I've done a lot of reading on this plan, along with the other one too. What is the enhanced program fees? The ones that start off at 1% and then they can go up to, it looks like 5%, but there's no cap in the first year. How does that work?
I don't think that's our plan. Is that your plan? You guys have that?
That's your plan.
What specifically?
It's enhanced program fees. There's different allowed fees. The 1% admin fee, and then there's a 1% for sub-program 1.1.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
And then it goes up and up from there. And I'm just wondering what.
The 5% fee isn't a mandate. It's money there to allow the Transportation Authority to hire consultants to help deliver the projects. When the original measure was passed, for a while, we used Bechtel Engineering to help review our projects and try to make sure we had the best practice in terms of spending our dollars. So that's why that's there. They want to spend it as if it's some, money trap for consultants but that's not the case at all.
And then another question, why did you decide to go with a 20-year plan instead of a 30-year plan?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I forgot to mention that. So again, the last two measures were 20 years, so we know the voters will support that. In 2022, we went out and had a measure and tried to extend it early, and we received 58% support. And that was a 30-year measure, right? And the polling, truthfully, was kind of pretty neutral on what was better, a 30 or a 20-year. The argument was that with a 30-year measure, voters are reluctant to pass a tax onto their grandkids. They're okay with 20 years. Okay, my kid will have to pay the burden of this tax, but at 30 years, my grandkid has to. And also, from a planning perspective, 30 years is too long a horizon. Things change too fast. You know, it's you don't need to be have a 30-year horizon. The idea of, you see what we're going to accomplish with our 3-point-something billion. Again, ours is a 20-year measure, and I think theirs is 7-point-something, a 30-year measure. But what you're going to get with theirs is more public transit in Fresno. So if that's, that's the bottom line. If you cut through all of this, it's simple as that.
And then, tell me about, the roads going out into Madera, the ones that aren't even kind of in Fresno County that are going to be going into Madera. And there was talk about a toll road as well. What, is that built into your plan?
We have, our regional program looks at, the investments in the urban project, the major corridor projects aren't widenings, or they're not extensions of the existing urban freeway system. They're more smart corridor improvements, auxiliary lanes, ramp meters, that kind of thing. But now the Madera-Fresno exchange there, we don't address that. Fresno's going to have to figure out exactly what we're going to do there. There is right-of-way in 41 to do something, but, most folks say, well, add another lane, except the state of California won't let you add another lane. So that's something you have to be aware of when you get involved with this stuff. And so that issue with the Fresno Madera exchange, again, particularly with all the development taking place in Madera, that's something that's going to have to be addressed.
Mhm. And then I
Again,
guess,
300,000 more people in Fresno County in the next 20 years. Their plan doesn't address that at all. I guess the thought is that everyone's going to get in a bus in Fresno and get around. That's how all these 300,000 additional people, it just makes no sense.
And
We've
then
got the number one ag county in the country, $8 billion worth of goods. The first trip from farm to market is on a county road. And their plan doesn't recognize that on any level at all. So it doesn't make any practical business sense.
and then I guess the last question I have is, does the plan that you guys are bringing forward, does that put the decision-making process with COG and the mayors, or does it move most of the decision-making process to FCTA?
Our plan keeps the existing structure in place. Their plan does away with that. Now, here's a little nuance if it should go all COG. So the COG is all the cities, right? So their argument is, well, all the cities have a vote there, so that's a good thing. But if you know the COG's dual-weighted voting system, you know that to get anything passed, you have to have 40% of the population support it, right? Well, Fresno and Clovis together have about 53 and 12, about 65%. So if they decide they don't want to do something, nothing that anybody else wants to do, if it gets to a point where there's a decision on how money is going to be spent, you can see how things will play out, because that's the nature of the COG's voting structure. And that's one of the reasons the authority was put in place, because I think at that time there was, to balance all of this out, there was a thought that the small cities could end up dominating where these revenues get spent, when the majority of them were generated in the urban area. And the dual system has been very successful. We're the second self-help county in the state of California. We have a tremendous record, and so we're proud of that. So I'll stand on that.
I'm just seeing if I have any more notes here. Looks like that's all the questions that I have. Do council have any more questions? No? You have anything more to add? You've done a great job without having a PowerPoint.
No, I appreciate your time tonight, and again, the voters will decide this. I think there's 525,000 voters in Fresno County. Turnout for a midterm is about 50%, so about 262,000 of this million-plus people in Fresno County will decide this election, which is how it should be.
All right. Well, we appreciate you spending your time and coming here, and it's always a great time seeing you. Thank you so much. All right. We are going to move on to the presentation, if they're ready, for the Better Roads, Safe Streets Initiative.
Good evening, Mayor and council members and staff here in Coalinga. Oh, could I have the lights up? I'm not going to present a slide deck or anything. I'm going to let my buddy Andy Levine do that in a minute, so I'm just going to talk a little bit. And I do want to just first say that I'm going to try my best to be very humble. I think Tony Bourne's done great work, and he's been a friend of mine. And I wish you had your, I feel bad that the thing wasn't ready for you, Tony. But I just wanted to say thank you for having us present tonight. I have a carpet cleaning company, and about every 18 months, I get to come to Coalinga and clean the United Security Bank down the street. So I'm pretty familiar with the fast food places in Coalinga. I am a former Fresno County supervisor, so I am I served on FCTA, which was talked about a little bit for 12 straight years, both as a council member for the city of Fresno and then as a supervisor. So I would like to say that there is a lot of elected support for our measure. And I want to talk to you about better roads and safe streets, but I want to build a little bit of the background first. And then I'm going to have Andy go through our slide deck. And I think if we have like 12 minutes, I think we'll be fine. So we all knew, everybody, Tony, everybody, probably all of you knew that Measure C was coming to an end. It's coming to the end in the middle of next year sometime, okay? So then that meant everybody had to get frantic, like what's going to happen? We need to extend Measure C. By the way, I'm a real conservative guy. I was head of the Central Valley Tea Party, and the word T stood for taxed enough already, so I can't stand taxes. But there's something different about the self-help tax. We tax ourselves. We don't send it to Sacramento. We don't send it to Washington, D.C. It stays here. So I've always been very supportive of us having the ability to tax ourselves and spend it locally, not send it off, somebody else take a big bite out of it and go do something kooky with it. So I've always been supportive of this tax. It's a 0.5-cent sales tax, whether you're buying a soda or a car. Everybody the same pays a 0.5 cent of their dollar. And it has done some really good things. But we've come to a crisis point in Fresno County on our local roads, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit. But before I do, I want to explain a process, because that is where that's where there was a lot of dissension. So the Council of Governments, by the way, your Mayor Vosburgh sits on the Council of Governments representing Coalinga. Everybody gets one vote. Jerry Dyer and Mayor Vosburgh get the same amount of power on that body. And so that's fantastic. And by the way, Nathan has done a good job representing, and I know some of you jump in from time to time if he can't make it, but Nathan does a good job jamming in, here's what Coalinga needs. And there's been sometimes I thought, man, where's he at on this? And then 3 minutes later, that was a good move. So he's worked hard for Coalinga, and I would even say the West Side cities in general, a lot of good work there. We tried to get an extension of Measure C in 2022. It didn't work. One of the reasons it didn't work was because they pulled a fast one at the last minute. I personally got offended as a supervisor, and I said, I can't support that. And I said, this plan's crazy. So they took my image and my quote that said, this is a crazy plan, and they sent it to every Republican and conservative in Fresno, Clovis, and that was a voter. Okay, so that plan got shot down. So when this plan started getting restructured, they came to me and said, Steve, what would it take? I mean, you really hurt us last time. What would it take to pass it? Well, we need a much more transparent. We can't have any back of the room deals being done. That the taxpayers don't like that crap. So I said, if I'm gonna help, you got to bring me in there, and I've got to be able to observe this so it makes sure it's copacetic, like everybody gets a fair shot at presenting their ideas. So so they put together the COG. Nathan and the other mayors put together what was called the steering committee. They said, okay, you guys start working on the plan. Now, at the same time, there was a community group that was very suspicious of the government running the entire show. So they were going to go do their own measure. So we knew that was a little bit of a problem. So the COG directed and said, hey, can you find out if both groups can work together? We know we don't bet on the same team all the time, but can these two groups come together, these two bodies come together? I was a part of that to see if that could happen. It's called a facilitation team. And after some conversations, we found, hey, it looks like there's a lot of commonality here. Maybe the two groups can work together. So we went back and COG said, okay, good. If you guys can work together, we're going to try and work together. So the COG already had a steering committee, and so they had to fold in the other group into the steering committee. The minute that happened, it offended some very easily offendable county supervisors. And you can hear them on KMJ. You can read about them all the time. At the end of the day, they just don't like the people that are in the room with them. I mean, it's just like that. So, they think different, they have different concepts. So a couple of these guys just didn't like it, and they took their bat and ball and ran away. At the end of the day, I had conservative friends of mine tell me, hey, you can't trust these people. They're going to stiff you in the back. They're going to go do their own thing after all. But the truth is, it was them that ended up doing that. Okay, so the result of those two groups coming together were dozens of community meetings. I went to several of them myself. Places like that I don't have the carpet cleaning jobs in, like San Joaquin. So, but there was dozens of meetings and hundreds and actually thousands of interactions with community members, from experts down to a single mom that wants to make sure that her kid walks on sidewalk. Okay? So there was thousands of surveys, dozens, and Andy, you probably know the answer. I don't remember how many meetings there were, but community meetings. We wanted to build a coalition of people that could get this thing done. It's our last chance, okay? So that COG steering committee kept working. I believe this gentleman, I don't even know his name, is your steering committee member of that body, okay? And I'll tell you, that guy had a tough job as well as everybody else, because we put him through the ringer, and we actually told him, you guys are going to do this for about 3 months. It ended up being about 8 months. So a lot of conversations. People would throw out ideas, some of them crazy, but it had to take 70% approval of, I think it was 34 people. 70% had to say yes to something for it to advance. So yes, somebody said, hey, I want to do this. I want to build this, blah, blah, blah. No, took 70%. So the work was being done very solidly. Now, I wasn't on that committee. I never at one point got to vote on any of this. I was just kind of a useful idiot in the background. But all that work kept happening, strong discussions. And then finally, the steering committee came forward with a final product. 93% of the steering committee approved of this body of work. The County of Fresno at that minute said, okay, guess what? That's dead on arrival. It says dead on arrival. Nathan was there. It said it's dead on arrival, and they called names and talked about terrorists and all kinds of stuff, and said it was dead on arrival. So the COG is a government body, so they said, well, we can't do this without the county. So they just took their folder and set it down. Okay, now we got a real crisis, because we still need a lot of work on our roads. And so it would mean that a citizens group would have to move anything forward. So we took that body of work and didn't change, just so you know, sir, we didn't change your allocations, those decisions you made, all those tough conversations, we didn't change any of that. We had to dot a few I's and cross a few T's, but that was in the deep weeds. And we got that done. And that's what Better Roads and Safe Streets measure is. It's built on all of that input. And what was that input? And then I'm going to bring Andy up. That input was, hey, guess what? I know Tony just told you a real glowing report about the last 40 years of Measure C, but the citizens are actually tired of it, because they feel like we've done everything on Tarnation except fix the road in front of their house. So this body of work fixes the road in front of the house. And it doesn't just pave the street. If that particular road in Coalinga needs a sidewalk, you can put the sidewalk on there. If that particular road needs some lighting, you can light the road as well as just pave it. So it's a very fantastic product. That's what we're out gathering signatures for right now. That's what I would love for your body to support tonight, and help us by passing a resolution of support, so we can say west side cities like Coalinga, Huron, Kerman, as well as the big cities. Now, when Andy goes through our slide deck, you're going to see that we just talk about our deal. But I had to sit here and listen, and as I did in Selma the other night, that's my hometown, to these guys bash our plan. That's all they got. And they want to say, well, you got too much in public transportation. I could look all of you in the eye. Guess what? I've never ridden Fax. I live in North Fresno now. I've never ridden Fax one time. okay? But when you're building a team to get something done, you got to say, okay, here's what Steve wants, but I need this guy to vote yes too. What do you want? Well, Mayor Dyer, Mayor Monatua in Clovis, they all use public transportation a lot to help their cities. So yes, there's public transportation dollars in there because we need Fresno, we need Clovis, we need Coalinga. I would like to say one other thing as as a strong conservative, and Nathan, you brought it up in your question. Our 30-year measure has a 1% administration fee all 30 years. That never changes. So at the end of 30 years, it's a big amount of money. It's $73 million to administer this thing. Their plan is a 20-year plan, 10 years shorter, and they're over $100 million in fees. So that's what Nathan was getting at. I wanted to clarify that. As a conservative, I think that's real valuable to make sure that things administered properly. I got a little bit more full of energy than I normally do. I appreciate your time. Andy's going to walk through the slide deck. We're going to talk about what we're doing. You'll see the allocations that the steering committee came up with. And then we'll be here to answer questions when Andy's done. Is that okay, or do you have something for me?
So we were hoping to have some questions for you, and then we'll do the slide deck,
fire
and
away.
then also we'll ask questions
If you
on
get
that
down
as
in the weeds, I'm not your guy.
well. Okay.
Okay.
I just have a quick question. I just wanted to clarify. You mentioned the collaboration between COG and county was 93% approved.
The steering committee, which was a COG function of government, when they set their final product down, it had 93% approval from the steering committee.
Mhm.
Then they handed it to COG, and COG has the majority, like we had all along, support of 11 out of 15 mayors. Okay? But one of the big cats in the room was the county of Fresno. And they said, this thing's dead on arrival. We're not going to support it. And so that made COG itself kind of, their knees start to shake because that's what the county said. So they set aside all of that work and said, well, now we don't know what to do. And then that left it for somebody like us to build a coalition and a team and try to advance the football.
Okay. And this is that work?
Yeah, the Better Roads, Safe Streets. It's built upon all the hard work for that year. By the way, and I like Tony, he's a good buddy. We've been to transportation conventions together, you know, so I'm not going to say anything bad, but these guys are high-speed rail and Caltrans consultants. So they feel really good about the last 40 years. Okay? But I'm telling you, the other night I presented in Clovis, the guy said, I'm not voting for either plan because you guys never actually fixed more roads. That's the angst that the voters feel now. So our measure is focused, we're unapologetic, it's on the roads. Yes, we have to add public transportation because some of our big friends and partners need that. But you'll see when Andy walks through it, when it gets to Coalinga, you guys can fix your stuff. And guess what? Fresno's not going to say, oh no, you can't pave 4th Street. That's up to you. How you roll it out, how you spend your money, that's on you guys.
That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you.
Anyone else questions for Mr. Brando? I would just like to point one thing out. I do analyze like all these, and there was, I think, one change that they did make. And it was actually a change that I had them take out as a cog. We took out, and then I believe they put this back in. And it's not a game changer, but it is legit, and it should be called out. Of the 5% regional project money, out of that, it was set that it was going to be only 7% that would have to go to disadvantaged communities, and they did, from what I understand, change that to 7 to 12%, up to 14 for the disadvantaged communities, which the regional amount is already so low that does make some of a difference. Now, I'm not against that. I'm just pointing it out that I think that was the change, because I did talk to Robert Phipps at Council of Government, and then I reread what's on your site, And I did see that that was back in there, but I think that is the only change. And then I also wanted to make a comment that from the mayor's perspective of going through this process, what we were told is that this had to go through COG, through the steering committee. COG would be able to have control at the final version, and then the mayors would vote, and then after that, it would go to the county, and the county would vote, and then it would go to the individual councils, and you had to get a majority of the councils in order to vote. And it was kind of unclear whether the process was to go to the councils first or whether to go to the county first. I think there was some discrepancies between the two different folks. But one thing that I do want to point out is that what we were told is that the county was not going to put it on the agenda, which that's why, because we did reach out 2 or 3 times to get them to, and it was literally only at the last second, I think, that there was an ability to do that. And by that time, we felt like that it was dead on arrival. And so that is why I don't want to make it seem like the mayor's sidestepped and didn't do their due diligence, because I thought we did. But if the county wasn't willing to take a vote on it, then I think a lot of us felt like, well, what can we even do? So I just wanted to point that out. So just from factual basis, from me sitting up there,
Yeah, and
with
the
those
way I
two.
painted it made it sound like maybe some of the other mayors might have shirked their responsibility in fear. That's not what
And of course, we
happened.
have all different opinions, but I just wanted to.
Good point.
That's from my standpoint. That's how that we felt. I think a lot of us felt that way. But factually, I think that most of the stuff that you said about how the process went was spot on. So I don't have any further questions for you, but I'm interested to listen to Mr. Levine's PowerPoint.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I have a full PowerPoint, but I know we've already spent a few minutes, and I know you have a full agenda. So is it okay if I just give you kind of some highlights? I don't want to take up any more time than I need to, but I'll take your cue, Mayor. And
So this is important to us, and we were asked in order to by I think both groups in order to endorse me specifically, and I stated that I didn't think it was fair that the mayor would endorse because that would somewhat be an endorsement looked at by the city. And so take the time. We're here to listen to what you have to say, and we want to make good decisions.
I so appreciate that, but please give me some kind of visual cue if I'm still going too long. I can geek out on some of this stuff, so I want to make sure I get you all the information you need and deserve. So thank you, Mayor Bosberg, Council, for having us tonight. Along with Steve, I'm with the Better Roads, Safe Streets campaign, and really just incredibly proud of this process, excited for this moment and the potential it holds. The only thing before I forget, Mayor, on your point about the percentage for disadvantaged unincorporated communities, you're correct about the sort of back and forth on that. The only thing I'd clarify is that specific percentage and amount it doesn't come out of the regional connectivity section. It's actually the County of Fresno's allocation in the existing neighborhood roads.
Thank you.
So they are slated to receive a little over $1 billion, the county itself, over the next 30 years in our measure. And so the percentage for disadvantaged unincorporated communities would come out of that specific pot. But
Thanks
you're
for
correct
that
about
clarification.
Yeah,
I appreciate
absolutely.
that.
But everything else, as Steve said and as you shared, really this reflects the work that's gone into this process over the last year. Your leadership on the COG, Mr. Yaden on the steering committee have so appreciated your comments throughout that process. So I'll just kind of walk through here the highlights of our measure. I'm going to focus mainly on our measure, but there are a few things I'll probably want to clarify in terms of Mr. Bourne's presentation. I guess I have control over this, huh? I got you. So this one, a couple of these I am going to gloss over just because they've already been said. So I don't want to. Mr. Yaden and I were talking before the meeting about when it's already been said, you don't have to say it all over again, and I always appreciated that. But again, Measure C has been around for 40 years. Passed actually as a citizen-led effort in 1986, something I didn't know until recently. So we're really proud to be carrying on that legacy, and then renewed by voters in 2006. And necessarily so, a lot of it over the last 40 years has been said went towards building out our freeway infrastructure and our major roads. That is what we see today, but it has come at a cost. And you're going to see our plan really tries to make sure that we don't repeat the mistakes of the past, or at least continue the past, but learn from that and redirect resources based on need. Because that cost is that because of the priorities in the last 40 years, our local neighborhood roads have taken a hit. No pun intended. They are what they are today because we have not invested in them, and we've heard that loud and clear across the county. So much so to the point that the estimate in terms of deferred maintenance needs that it would take to get all of our roads across the county up to what's considered good condition is actually $5.4 billion now today. Again, because we have not invested in those local roads in the first two iterations of Measure C. As I said, this is building on a legacy of this. That's a photo from when Measure C first passed in 1986 as a citizen-led effort. So really, again, proud to be kind of carrying on that tradition. Steve alluded to this, but one of the contrasts between our measure and the measure that Mr. Boren presented on as Fix Our Roads, their presentation, you would see they have the photos of 7 people that developed their measure, that are the people that wrote the measure and are backing this. Ours reflects, we believe very confidently, over 4,500 Fresno County residents, taxpayers, and voters that we invited to be a part of this process, knowing that Measure C was going to expire in 2027. Last year, we brought from all over the county 72 zip codes. Somebody can probably tell me how many zip codes there are in Fresno County, but it's not that much more than that. Almost all zip codes represented, over 34 meetings and town halls, and again, over 4,500 people that told us not only what was broken and what they needed in transportation, but also what they wanted to see, what their vision was for transportation in the next year and 30 years. So this is a real rough breakdown. Mr. Yaden will recognize this. Mayor Vosberg will recognize this. This is the framework that the steering committee recommended, that the majority of the mayors on the COG policy board supported. But the highlight here, I'll just say, if you don't get anything else out of this one, the real highlight is people told us loud and clear they want to see the vast majority of the money going towards local neighborhood roads, the roads in my own city, the roads in front of my home, school, workplace, park, not building out new roads, but really repairing the roads right in front of me. And as a result, 2/3 of our measure, 65%, almost $5 billion of the overall estimated $7.4 billion that our measure would bring in over the next 30 years goes towards just that, existing neighborhood roads. And I'll walk through in a second sort of what that looks like for Coalinga specifically. But the rest are essentially a extension of the current allocation for public transportation. So there's this narrative that we're somehow trying to put way more money than ever before in public transportation. I would just say, just the fact is, the current Measure C allocates 24% to public transportation. To the 3 specific transit agencies, our measure recommends and proposes 25%, a 1% increase for public transportation. We still have a significant amount invested for regional connectivity. It is not the amount that we've invested over the first 2 measures, and again, we're unapologetic about that. That's because people want to see a redirect of the vast majority of resources to local roads instead of regional projects. I'll walk through a little later about this next category around access and innovation. And then Steve mentioned this, but we continue the investment for administration and oversight. People were very clear they wanted to see strong accountability, oversight, public input, and helping to shape the investments over the next 30 years, but to not make that an overly bureaucratic process and a bloated budget, to make sure that it had the resources it needs, but allocate everything else towards actual investment in transportation projects. I'll just say the 30 years, because we have not invested enough in our local roads over the last 40 years, and I mentioned there's a $5.4 billion estimate of what we need to bring roads up to proper condition. We've been told by people that know this better than I do that it's really going to take that much time, that longer period of time, to get our roads up to the condition that they need and to maintain them. This is going to be a long-term investment. Not coincidentally, the COG did a poll of likely voters, I think mid last year, I want to say, Mayor, and they actually tested for voters' preference for length of time, and 30 years actually came out as voters' preference, as long as the plan was done with fidelity, as long as they had assurances of where the money would be spent, and as long as there was opportunity for regular reviews throughout those 30 years, which our measure does, and I'll share in a second. You probably all know this, but the administrating agencies are first and foremost the 15 cities themselves in the county itself, the 3 transit agencies, and the Fresno Council of Governments, the Fresno COG. The next few slides will just kind of walk through the basics of what are in each of those categories. This is the most important one, so I'll spend the most time on it. But again, 2/3 roughly of our measure, 65%, almost $5 billion, goes towards what's called the existing neighborhood roads project and category. And this is the one that is that you'll see the direct allocation to each jurisdiction each year for the next 30 years. This one I really want to point out. This is 65% based on the formula that is continued from Measure C that is giving each jurisdiction maximum flexibility to spend this money as you see fit. You are the elected leaders of your city. You know your roads, you know your conditions, you know your communities better than anybody else. So this is a maximum flexible category that has some specific performance metrics that I'll walk through in a second, but overall is a flexible category for you to spend as you see fit. You heard from Mr. Boren some mentions of 66%, 82%. If you look at it specifically, the only actual flexible portion of those numbers is 16%. The rest is pretty prescribed and is not actually flexible. Ours provides maximum flexibility for this entire 65% category. This one, I'm going to kind of let the numbers speak for itself, but this I want to say it's not apples to apples completely. We can get you an annual allocation if it's helpful, but so on the right is the amount that the city of Coalinga has received over the last 20 years from the current Measure C, which is a little over $9 million. And so in our measure, of course, being a 30-year measure, and as I mentioned, because of how these things work, a lot of the money will come in the last decade, the last 10 years of our 30-year measure. So you see that's where you really see the most bang for your buck. And because of that, and in general, the city of Coalinga would be estimated to receive over $81 million just for your city, just for your roads allocation over the next 30 years. And so again, that one I think kind of speaks for itself. This, I mentioned that it's a balance we're really trying to strike, and I think we have struck of, for the most part, providing maximum flexibility for cities and across the county. And voters want and deserve to know that they're going to get some specific measurable outcomes out of this if they vote yes on it. And so a couple of those that I'll just lift up for every jurisdiction. The metric that is probably most important is that every jurisdiction will get their PCI, which is pavement condition and index, up to an average of 70, which is basically the number that is considered good condition as a result of this measure. And so voters, will expect that, and that'll be the expectation to get our local roads up to that condition. The other two is a little bit nuanced for a city like Coalinga that I'll just share. So a couple other metrics overall as the measure that I think are actually very exciting are, and this again reflects the recommendations coming out of the steering committee, but over the next 30 years, an expectation of 120 protected bike lanes and or trails built over those 30 years. The city of Coalinga will not be required to meet any specific number as a part of that. Anything you do build, and the same will be true for Safe Routes to School in a second, but any miles of trails or bike lanes that you do build counts towards the county's expected share. But the city of Coalinga does not have a specific number that you're held accountable to in that respect. Similarly, for Safe Routes to Schools, I'm an educator, so this is one that is near and dear to my heart. We will be expected to build 150 Safe Routes to School projects over the next 30 years, which to me would be an absolute incredible milestone. That's almost half the schools in our entire county. Similarly, though, the city of Coalinga will not be held accountable to any specific number, but any Safe Routes to School projects that you build with your allocation, that 65% category, will count towards the county's obligation in this area as well. Again, a 1% increase from the current measure of public transportation with specific required metrics. At least six specific required metrics that each transit agency, FACTS, Clovis Transit, and FCRTA, will be expected to be held accountable to, and each agency will have 2 years to develop a transit improvement plan for how they propose to get to those metrics with their allocations. But this includes things like requiring the three agencies coordinate with each other, so that if somebody's coming in from Coalinga into the metro area, they don't just have to figure out where to go when they get to FACTS, for instance, but actual coordination, metrics including reducing travel time, more frequent services, more options. Want to be really clear here that I think there's sometimes this sort of false equivalization of public transit with these big buses. Public transportation can and does include microtransit, on-demand services, shuttles. So it'll expect improvement of those services, as well as improved and ADA-compliant bus stops and other things that you see on that slide. Again, I want to just be clear, this reflects a 1% increase from the current measure for public transportation. And the same allocation allocation, the same formula of allocations, what that means for the free transit agencies. By the end of the presentation, I'll have gotten this. Nope. So this one it includes something that I think is also very exciting. Includes a guarantee of free fares for specific populations, and those are specifically seniors, 62 and older, which actually is a lowering of the threshold to provide this for more individuals, people with disabilities, children, students, veterans, and active military. And then the rest would be a competitive pot that the jurisdictions would be able to apply for innovation projects, the energy, the transportation technology that we know exists today, but with being a 30-year measure, that technology is going to be evolving constantly, and so this will be a competitive pot that you all could apply for innovation-related transportation projects that are needed for your community. I'm doing okay on time?
Yeah.
You're going to give me a cue if I'm taking over too long? This, again, we are unapologetic that we are redirecting the vast majority of the resources to the cities, to local neighborhood roads, to fix your potholes, to fix your road conditions in your own communities. And we wanted to, in the steering committee and the COG Policy Board, as its acceptance of the recommendations reflects, we wanted to continue a regional connectivity program, a significant investment still to be able to still build out those regional projects, not prescribe what they are up front, but actually allow for community engagement, allow for the COG Policy Board to really understand what projects need to be invested in, and enough money to be able to secure matching funds from the state and federal government to continue this work. And then finally, again, we talked about it, but voters and taxpayers have been very clear. They want to see strong accountability. They want to have clear oversight. They want to require annual audits. They want to know that if there's any suspected misuse of funds, it gets referred directly to the Attorney General and the state Attorney General and the Fresno County District Attorney. And of course, this commitment, this is a local transportation tax, as Steve said. This is a self-help tax is unique in that it is collected here and it stays here, so monies cannot be redirected, cannot be taken from the state. This is our tax for us to improve our local transportation projects. This is kind of a little bit of a summary of some of the things I've touched on, but some of the reporting and performance requirements that are expected as a part of this program. Again, voters deserve to know they're going to get specific things out of this, as long as there's also flexibility to get there as you see fit, and there's strong oversight and accountability so that we know that what we vote for is being done, and if it's not being done, that there's strong accountability for that. And a part of that, I think I've alluded to, but being a 30-year measure, we know that things are both technology and needs are going to evolve over the next 30 years. And so a big part of this includes a required comprehensive review of the entire plan every 10 years. And I want to be clear, there is community involvement. There is the Citizens Oversight Committee that largely reflects the process that has been in place for the last 20 years and really the last 40 years. But the power rests at the city level, as your jurisdictions, and at the COG Policy Board. And the value of it being through the COG Policy Board, as Steve mentioned, is that every single mayor, including your mayor, has a direct say and has the direct control over this, including being able to make changes as we see fit. Our website is betterroadssafestreets.com. I'll wrap it up with this just to say that we have been, both of these are citizen-led measures, meaning we have to collect at least 22,000. We're trying to collect a lot more than that to make sure we safely qualify for the ballot. But we have been in the field the last couple of weeks doing just that, collecting signatures from registered voters, building a lot of momentum. We're on track to be able to qualify soon. And we are also in the process, we've been presenting to city councils like yours for the last couple of weeks, and very excited to share that we've received resolutions from city councils in support of our measure from, Steve, correct me if I miss anybody, but the cities of Huron, Mendota, Parlier, and Clovis, just in the last couple of weeks, and would be honored to earn your support. Happy to answer any questions. And Firebaugh, thank you. It's a good problem to have to forget, I guess, the city. But just honored to be able to present, would be honored to receive your support, and happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, let's open it up for questions from council.
I wasn't clear on the first part where you mentioned 65% existing neighbor road section.
Yep.
And then under that, did you mention there was a 16% flexible section?
I'm sorry if I was unclear. That was my comment on the Fix Our Roads measure. So 65% is the percentage for existing neighborhood roads in our measure, and that the number I shared for the city of Coalinga's allocation is sort of reflective of that. The 16% is our analysis of the other plan. There was talk of 66%, 82%. The only part of that that's actually flexible in the other measure is a 16% pot. So, put it a different way, I would argue that 65% of our measure is flexible, 16% of theirs is flexible.
Oh, got you. Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Well, I feel like I know your plan. I mean, we spent a lot of time on that plan. We had a lot of people involved in that plan. I guess one of the questions that I have would be, is the same oversight going to occur with Fresno Council of Government, the FCTA, and the same way that it's working now?
Thank you, Mayor. That is an important clarification. So our measure actually provides the administration to Fresno COG. FCTA exists as a part of Measure C. The administration in our plan would be through the COG Policy Board, which frankly puts us in line with pretty much every self-help measure across the state. That actually is the standard. It allows for us to not, have a bloated budget for administration to actually make it efficient, but make sure that they have the resources that they need to provide both the oversight and accountability. And also there's in there an expectation that the COG staff will be able to provide through themselves or any kind of consulting needs, direct support for small cities to meet some of the requirements around the annual audits. But again, the idea behind that, one part of the idea is FCTA doesn't have representation from every city and jurisdiction. The COG Policy Board, of course, does. And so this is, I think, a safeguard to make sure that you have, through your mayor, a direct say and control over the process.
And then, why does you had mentioned that the larger portion comes at the end for the funding. Why is that?
I am not an economist, so I'm going to try to be careful to not try to speak too much on that. Those are the estimates from the experts that have projected the revenues over the last 30 years. And so this reflects even the numbers, I think, that were being shared with the steering committee and the COG Policy Board. But, due to inflation and, things that an economist would say that I won't be able to. I think the Fix Our Roads initiative shares their expected revenues that are in line with what ours would have been over the first 20 years. It's a little over half of the overall revenues, the overall 7.4 expected for our 30-year measure. But yeah, because of inflation and other things, a lot more comes in those last 10 years than comes in the first 2 decades.
And then when we're talking about, thank you for that. And when we're talking about the transit, that has kind of been a point of contention with Coalinga. I think we got like in between 700,000 and 900,000 in transportation funds, and I think throughout the 3 different methods that we're using to get people from point A to point B, it was anywhere from $70 to $90 a person per ride. Like we had someone taking a ride in Coalinga from point A to point B. But if you take the amount of money we spent on that exact service and divide it by the amount of people that used it, it was astonishing that it cost that much to give someone a 5-minute ride, right? So in this plan, is there the ability to change the way that we currently are doing transit? Because I know that there's some ideas with microtransit.
Yep.
There's also some ideas with, changing to fixed route services. But I do know that there is also some things that have to be met into there, like the seniors and the veterans and those. So that was one of the things but is there still the flexibility, even with that in there, to be able to switch? Like, for instance, just putting out there, let's say Coalinga would go with microtransit in order to get seniors and veterans around, because there would be more of a singular person. And then you would have a fixed stop bus route that would run a bus route for like kids and folks that want to go through the community and they want to be able to walk onto a bus. Because I think that's the complaint that I get from a lot of people, that they can't do that. And then, of course, with the elderly and the veterans, some of their things is that, they may not feel safe or comfortable riding on a transit with a lot of people. So does this plan allow for those types of changes in our transit system?
Can I go even a step further,
Absolutely.
your word is allow, or is it flexible to be able to? I would go even further that it's expected to do those things. So the requirement is there's again specific metrics that are not tied to like a one way of doing it. It's just in terms of access and services. And a part of the requirement is that all three transit agencies by 2029 are required to develop a transit improvement plan that reflects what people truly need for transit. And so, again, I wouldn't say it's only like possible, it's expected that those transit plans will reflect what people truly need. 80% of transit riders in Fresno County are what's called transit dependent, meaning that this is their only way of getting from point A to point B. And so the transit improvement plans would expect to actually adapt to what people truly need, not just how we've done things. Because I don't think we've actually been as innovative as we need to be in terms of really meeting people where they're at. So it would expect that by 2029, every 5 years, they would be expected to update those plans. And it absolutely would include things like on-demand services and microtransit to make sure that we're helping people to actually get to where they need to get to. And while it's a 1% increase of the allocation to the three agencies compared to the current measure, people were loud and clear in our process that they did not want to see. They wanted to see a better public transportation program, but they also did not want to see a reduction, like a step backwards of public transit. Ours is the only plan that can confidently say that you will not see a reduction of current services.
And then I guess let's see. I guess the largest question that I have is that with moving the regional connectivity and the Fresno County amounts down to where they're at in order to provide the cities to be able to fix the roads, where will the money come from to be able to fix the regional projects and the things? Because I mean, we do live in our cities and we do want to make sure that our roads are fixed, and I think that is a point of contention, right? But then also when we leave the city, which we just heard a presentation from our economic development folks that said we have a large leakage, right? Well, so we have to fix that on our own, but until we get to there, we do have people leaving from Coalinga to go to Fresno, to go to Hanford, to go to other places. Where does the money come, and where should it come from?
Yeah, I would say in terms of like the highway infrastructure, we have, my opinion, but I think it's shared by a lot of people, that we have been subsidizing the state and the federal government for a lot of the work they should be doing around our highway infrastructure over the last several decades. And this tries to move away from that, right? To make sure that the state is actually providing the services it's supposed to provide. And there's a reason why we continue to significant investment in regional connectivity in our program. It is making sure we're redirecting as much as possible to the cities, but it is enough to be able to build out a number of regional projects, to be able to secure matching funding. Steve will correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe the number for Fresno County itself as a jurisdiction in that 65% category is a little over $1 billion that it would receive over the next 30 years. So it'll have plenty of resources to build out the roads that are not in Coalinga and the specific cities themselves.
Okay. Any other questions from council? Seeing none, we appreciate you coming all this way, and thank you for taking the time, and thank you, Ms. Brandow, as well, for taking the time. We appreciate Tony also from coming and giving us information. We have a lot to think about, and I think as we're going through this rest of this large agenda, we'll also be thinking about how we can address that. So that being said, we are going to move on to the greatest part, which is the citizens' comments. And just so everyone knows, we do have discussion items, and in Coalinga, in order to talk on a discussion item, we request that you do fill out a discussion card if you would like to speak. That's not to say we won't allow it, but we do prefer that. And that being said, this section of the agenda allows members of the public to address the city council on any item within the jurisdiction of the council. Members of the public, when recognized by the mayor, should come forward to the lectern, identify themselves, and use the microphone. Comments are normally limited to 3 minutes. In accordance with state open meeting laws, no action will be taken by the city council this evening, and all items will be referred to staff for follow-up in a report. Citizens' comments submitted in writing to the city clerk by 5 p.m. on the day of the city council meeting shall be distributed to the city council and included in the record. However, they will not be read. And for citizens' comments, there is nothing except for just tell us you want and come up to the microphone. So does anybody have some citizen comments to make? Yes, sir. with disabilities, we also do have a mobile microphone sitting next to the press. I'm sorry, I was going to tell you didn't have to walk all the way up here. You could have grabbed the mic.
Really?
You look like you're in pain.
Yeah, never mind. Anyways, Chuck Yaden, local Lions Club member here in Coalinga. April 23rd, we're going to be having the spaghetti fundraiser. It's going to help not only the local Lions Club, because we're going to try and get back to giving back to the community different ways, but it's also going to help with the high school culinary program. So we're working with them to help us and to help them. Tickets are on sale now. It's April 23rd. It's a dining dash where you show up, you give us, say, 2 tickets. We give you 2 trays. You take it to wherever you want to eat it, and you eat it. There will be no dine-in. This first year, we wanted to keep it simple. So April 23rd, tickets are $15 each. And since I know most of you here, I will be hitting you up personally to see if you would like to buy some tickets. So it's for a good cause. It's for the Lions Club, and it's also for the high school. So April 23rd, $15 each. Tickets are on sale now. That's it.
Thank you so much.
That would be great. I appreciate that. Yes, I will get that to her. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. And in no way was I inferring that Mr. Yaden was. It was just, yeah. Anyone else for citizens comment? Seeing none, we're going to move on to public hearings. Public hearing and adoption of Resolution 4310, approving the submittal of Community Development Block Grant application for the Garfield Water Main Replacement Project. Mr. Brown?
Thank you, Mayor. So we are here to open the public hearing to accept comments for the city's proposed submittal of the CDBG, the Community Development Block Grant, and notice of funding availability, and to solicit citizen input and comment. It is required through the federal grant that we prepare this public hearing, and we recommend that the council adopt Resolution 4310 and authorize the city manager to enter into an agreement with Blaze and Associates to in the amount of $10,875 to prepare the application for the grant. We have some bad pipes over there, Garfield and between Hayes and in the alleys, and we're going to be extending that into Olson Park there. So part of the public hearing is that we ask the council to authorize the city manager or his designee to execute the approval and the loan documents.
All right. So before I open the public hearing, I'm going to ask for any questions from council.
I'm just curious, this is a grant, right? But is there a match that goes with this, or is that unknown?
That is unknown at this moment.
Okay.
I don't think there is a match on this one. I don't think so either, but I didn't want to speak out of turn, so I can find out. We'll double check though. Yeah.
We'll wait till the public hearing. Any other questions from council? Okay, so I just have a few. Why was this water main selected instead of others?
We've had a number of breaks there over the years. This was determined to be the section in most need of repair, immediate repair. Okay. So there was several last year.
And I did read in the report, it said that that would include some meters. Are these going to be the smart meters?
Everything should be a smart meter that we're putting back in.
Yeah, and a lot of these properties will probably already have smart meters on them. So it's primarily just the main distribution line. But if they have current meters, they should. It will just be utilizing the same meters that are already there.
All right. Well, because I think in the report it said that it was going to be replacing out some old meters.
There'll be several meters replaced.
Okay. And then I guess and I just kind of want to make a statement on this. I don't know if it's the ability in here to do this, but I would like to smart meter to monitor the main in the first place. Because in the past, we've had a lot of water leakage, and I think that putting smart meters on the main itself all the way through the city would give us a good idea when we start having a leak, when it's happening, and the smart meters are an amazing tool. So I don't know if there's the ability within this CDBG to be able to do that.
It's not in the scope, but we are looking at alternatives and ways to be able to monitor the transmission lines in the system and in the distribution system. Those are conversations we've had to look at the technologies. Actually, we got Henry from MKN here, and we've even had conversations with them about looking for alternatives and ways to be able to monitor for leaks in our system.
Excellent. Any other questions from council?
I think leaks are mostly monitored on the customer side, right? Monitoring flow through transmission and distribution is going to be like an allotment more than it is going to be able to find leaks, right?
Yeah, it more else discovers the leaks because it can do it by its own. I didn't mean to put Henry on the spot, but I think there's different options. There's different options and ways that you can monitor transmission lines and distribution lines for leaks. But yeah, if there's a leak on a customer side, the meters are going to track that. The new smart meters will track that. But really, right now, we operate a pretty high pressure water system, so you're gonna when a leak happens, you typically see it.
So the reason I bring this up is because on my first term in council, we actually did an analysis, and the analysis can change. Things can change. But I did just speak with Congressman Valdeo, and his first question to me was, did you guys get the 15 to 30% loss in water that you had from leaks fixed? That was his first thing that he said out of his mouth. So, and I remember this analysis. 15 to 30% is a lot, especially when you're under drought conditions and they're taking in how much water based on your usage, your historical usage, and things of that nature. So it's kind of been a thing for me for a long time that I want to make sure that we're not losing any water, to be honest with you. And I've seen over there by Sandalwood, I've seen that area. It was just spraying out. I called the city, and I think it took a couple days for people to get over there. But it's like, we should be notified. I think I just want personal immediate notification so that the city can go and fix them. Because I think that in the situation we're in, any drop of water that we lose is a loss. And I think that in talking to the city manager, that the analysis back then could have been at a flawed point from new information, so it may not have been that much. But I just want to make sure that, moving forward, that we can, at my house, the smart meter was amazing. It saved my house. I had a slab leak. I didn't know it. I'm not saying that the city could do that with the high pressure system, but I would just like to see some way to be able to monitor these types of things. So that's my only point with that. But
Definitely the highest priority for us.
I appreciate that. Any other questions or comments from council? No? All right, so this is going to be a public hearing. I'm going to open up the public hearing right now. So anybody who wants to come forward, please state your name.
This is because questions are in regards to the scope of the project. Are we going to have a larger main, and if so, what size? And will we increase the GPM? And will we have additional hydrants? And will we be changing out domestic water meters? Thank you.
We will be increasing from 6-inch to 8-inch in certain locations, not throughout the entirety of the project. And Henry can maybe answer some of that better than I. Do you mind coming up, Henry?
That's not why he's here.
Good evening. Yes, that's correct, Jesse. The pipeline will be upsized from 6-inch to 8-inch. And regarding fire hydrants, we're just replacing existing hydrants. So currently the plans do not include adding any new hydrants.
One of the other questions was the domestic meters, but we will be replacing several meters as a matter of the project, if I'm correct in the scope.
Yeah, that's correct.
coupling,
So there's
right?
couplings that are used for that transition.
Right.
So I mean, we're basically just connecting up to the closest point that's safe to connect up to.
From 8, and now that goes from 6 inch now to 8 inch, and then back to 6 inch, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Are we losing any pressure? I know we have a high pressure system, and we're really proud of that.
Yeah, the part of the reason we're going up to 8 inch is to increase pressures. So the city staff realized that there have been low pressure issues in the area, and also just to provide additional fire flows to be able to deliver more flow to that area. That was the main reason to increase to 8 inch.
No questions.
There was a question about fire hydrants. Was there a study done on the need for more, or was there a deficiency, or anything? Do we know anything about that?
I don't believe we studied that, but not aware of, and the chief might correct me if I'm wrong here, but we're not aware of any deficiencies in that area.
Okay. Thank you.
So my question is, I'm gonna have one more. So we had other leaks, right? You said we had other leaks the year prior. So do we have a order of leaks of most leaks to the least amount of leaks in the areas of the county that we possibly need to be looking at going forward in the future? To be honest, we do it based on probably reporting in terms of when we've had leaks and identify. This one was like obvious. I think we had 5 in 2 days on that steel line. As soon as they repaired one, another one popped up. It's in such bad shape. So that's what triggered us to move forward with the design efforts. So MKM Adura now is working on the design, and so this application will be primarily for the construction of the project. So we're already in design. We're hoping to have design complete, I think, in the next.
It's complete.
Or it's done.
It's what's been circulated.
So if we're awarded the funds, we'll be able to move on construction relatively quick. Yeah.
Can I add something to your response, Sean? I know in our discussions with city staff, city staff just asked us to do the design for this segment, but I know part of their reasoning was because the whole area is very aged infrastructure, and the failures have occurred to the southern alleys, and a lot of those sections have already been replaced. So this is one of the original pipe sections that hasn't been replaced yet. So I think the long-term plan is to really replace all the aged steel pipe in this whole neighborhood.
Any other questions from the council? Any other questions from the public? I guess I just have one more question. Based on what Councilman Louder was talking about, and then my comments about putting meters on those larger, I'm not super familiar with the technology, and I think he alluded to something about that. Maybe that's not a good spot to have that. What were you kind of maybe explain a little bit to me, because I don't.
I'm just questioning. I mean, like, because of flow, it's all based on flow. So through the main transmission, you'd have to meter between 2 points without any flow coming off of it. So that's the only way you tell a leak, because it's all flowing throughout the city. So I'm not aware of any technology to match on something like transmission or distribution. It's more on the residential side when it goes into the customer.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the major or the most common way to measure leaks is pressure. So if there's pressure stations and you see a drop in pressure, that's usually a sign of a leak. But to measure flows, that would be hard to detect just because there's already going to be flows.
You go more off like an annual allotment and see how much you ran her down. That's that 30% you were talking about.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. Thank you. I always want to learn, and I always want to understand what's going on. So I appreciate Councilman Louder's comments and your comments as well. So thank you so much.
Robert was kind enough to put a flow meter up. Thanks, Robert.
Well, it's always a
Councilman Arroyo,
Aye.
Councilman Louder,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Schindler,
Aye.
Mayor Vosper.
I also vote aye. The public hearing and adoption of resolution number 4310, approving the submittal of community development block grant application for the Garfield Water Main replacement project passes. And thank you so much from the city staff. And our next staff member. We appreciate that. Okay, so we're going to move on to the consent calendar, and it looks like we have 13 items because we did add the code enforcement report onto there. Is there anything that council would like to listen in more on? Maybe questions, comments?
I'd like to pull 5-7 just for information.
Okay. Anything else that council would like to pull? No? All right, so, no, these will be quick, but I do want to pull 5-2. This is just going to be for information for the public. 5-2, 5-3, 5-8, 5-9, and 5-12. No, we're going to go quick, I promise.
Yeah, it's all, I'm already ready for that one.
And I did give Sean a heads up, so he should be ready.
We'll breeze through 'em.
So 5-2 first.
Go ahead, Marcy.
Yes, this is a budget adjustment for the Wings Over the West Side expenditure. When we made the report in December, we did have initially in that budget line item $50,000, but our expenditures were actually $79,000. When that report was made in December, we did say we would bring that back for an adjustment to expenditures during the budget mid-year review.
Perfect. Thank you. Number 5-3.
Yes, did you have a particular question in regards to it?
Yeah, so that's a lot of money for some flooring.
It is a lot, that is absolutely a
Oh,
true
goodness.
statement. It is a lot of money for a lot of flooring, but this is for the entire working side of City Hall. And it has been, some of that carpet is the original carpet, maybe from 1992. There are minimal spaces where it's been updated, and as many of you have walked through City Hall, you can see the wear and tear on there. So I think it's a lot of money, but it's important to make this an investment into City Hall that has been delayed for several years.
And this was bid on, correct?
This was not a bid. We used the the competitive process that CORE has the preferred purchasing agreement. So they do some work with colleges, the county, and other cities. And with that purchasing cooperative, they have the best pricing. So we were not required to go out and get 3 bids.
Essentially, it's competitive pricing. So it's like using Sourcewell. You can buy equipment for public works or whatever. Typically, it's already publicly competitive, and then they basically have it's like there's like state contracts or sole source, especially when you're dealing with, specialized or particular companies only do certain carpet manufacturers. So it allows you to sole source the type of, so like the schools, the colleges, a lot of them do the same thing. But it is competitively bid.
Anyone else have any questions on 5.3? Seeing none, move. It is.
Put a lot of usage since 1992 on, so it's, I think, using core, that company usually vets out pricing plus customer experience and quality. So,
And they give us a government discount on top of it.
Well, and we pay a hefty price for that government discount. Prevailing wage is not cheap. But I agree. It's well timed to get it done. All right, 5.7.
I'm gonna start putting this on presentations because I think that I anticipate at every meeting, so we'll make that change. Just to give you guys a quick update on all of our strategic kind of projects. The mid-year budget discussion has an update. Mine included a full project list, all the one-time projects, but those goes down as small as like buying a computer as a one-time project. These are more of the bigger picture kind of strategic planning goals projects that we and the council discussed during our strategic we're calling the Envision projects. So just to give quick highlights, some recently completed projects was we've recently completed our travel policy update, which from the finance department was a goal. The citywide credit card payments, we now have airport fuel, and I think Robert told me I think we have 3 purchases at the airport since the inception, and so we have those advertised. So we have a lot of all the information's out that we do offer fuel at the airport now. Some major projects, setting the fund reserve, some fund balance and reserve policies. We're in the process of working on the animal control ordinance and finalizing that. The one meeting agenda software, we're going to be setting up some training here probably in the next month or so we can start getting ready to go live on that, and we'll start transitioning to our new agenda software. Access control systems at City Hall are complete. I think fire department's getting close, or if not, you guys are complete as of last, almost there. As we talked, the City Hall PD improvements for flooring, painting, and lighting. Lighting's done. Painting, if you've been in City Hall, it's a mess right now, but we're hoping to wrap that up tomorrow. And then flooring will start soon thereafter, so the chaos ensues. Solar projects of the water and wastewater plants are moving, and we're hoping to near completion with water here in the middle of April, and most likely with wastewater soon thereafter. The Clean City Initiative, code enforcement is pretty active right now. Jesse and the team will have probably an update in the next month or so on kind of our efforts on where we're at with that initiative. Commercial vehicle parking, we've made some changes there. We're seeing some improvements throughout town on commercial vehicle parking. The outdoor food court, as you see tonight on the agenda, we'll be discussing the initial concept plan so we can move forward with the full design phase. The animal control facility, that is about 90% complete, and we're hoping to have that here complete relatively soon. Ramsey Splash Park is currently out to bid, and we anticipate the bid award coming on the April 2nd meeting. So we should actually have bids coming in, I think, on Tuesday. In terms of some streets, we just finalized the plan for the center median project on Merced. So kind of do similar what we did on Washington and on Monterey. We're going to do on Merced. I know it's been some time that we've done some improvements out on Merced in that area. I know we pulled a lot of landscaping out, but we're going to kind of clean up that landscaping and get that going. The banner program, just saying he's actually getting quotes on the America 250 banners. We're getting multiple quotes because the first set of quotes came in relatively expensive, and we're trying to put them throughout a lot of area on the main thoroughfares through town. And so we'll hopefully get those ordered the next week or two. We've been engaged with the school on curb painting, and we're still working on coordinating future meetings with the school to finalize some of that curb painting around the schools. The website redesign, as even the mayor and I were talking, it is more of kind of a freshen up. You'll probably notice it's already live on the site, but we're in the process, and bear with us. We are updating a lot of content on the site right now. It's been an underutilized asset, but we've also been very behind on keeping it updated, so we apologize for that, but we are working, all the departments are working diligently to update the content, so you should see that almost daily, seeing updated content on the website. Fire department generator, we're making progress. I think we're on the home stretch. I don't have an exact date, but we should be hopefully in the next few weeks. We should be done. Other than that, that's a quick and dirty of the report. The report's attached, and we do add it to the website. Actually, I think the February one's already on the website.
Do we have a estimated completion date for the water plant solar?
For the water plant, no later than April 16th.
Any other questions from council? No? Seeing none? All right. I guess the only question I really have is, I see that we have some things from finance that were, you know, looking at the different chart of accounts and things of that nature. And there was like 3 or 4 things that are on there that are on hold. Is that due to looking for your accountant position?
I think most of them probably. You want to give a quick update on those, Mai? No chart of accounts. We were just talking about that today. I think that's in the works.
Sorry to put you on the spot, Maya.
The revision of the fund balance and reserve policy, that's one of them. It's very simple. It's something that I will be working on with Wolf Hansen on this. And I just we're just not going to start it yet, but it will be done before we start the new fiscal year.
Okay.
And then the other one, decentralizing the finance function. My Christina, who is the business systems analyst, she's busy with the chart of accounts, and so that kind of deviate her away from doing this decentralizing of the finance function. So that one we have not started on yet. And then that's the chart of accounts.
So basically, all this stuff is in the works.
Yes.
It's in the works.
It's in the works.
Yeah.
We haven't stopped. It's just
I just want to know if there's something that we need to do in order to help you get these things accomplished.
Another reason is you're right. It is the accountant position. So with the position vacant, and we did post that position for recruitment. And because of that, I did pull Christina in to oversee the accounting staff. So part of her time is to train those individuals as well. So that kind of pulls some of her time away from the projects as well. And so.
Okay. I appreciate it. Anyone else have questions?
Yeah, we can look and see how we can progress. I think it might be something good to start implementing maybe at the fiscal year as we start our next year, because I think it'll take some time to kind of figure out how we're going to do that.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be complicated.
Yeah.
Just a percentage of completion.
Okay. And we can standardize, we can change up the report too to make sure it provides that too, but then we can try to find a way to visualize all the projects too.
We're talking about it, but I think it's good we had something like that to showcase because that's a lot of work.
Sure.
I agree. I'm a visual person. That'd be great. Any other? Yeah.
Are we thinking about scheduling another plan meeting, strategic plan meeting like we did the first time?
Yeah, I actually talked to Patrick about 3 weeks ago, and we talked that we probably will do something early next year.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that we have enough probably to continue on through in the next fiscal year. But we talked about moving, maybe looking at something in January or February of next year, as we can start building prior to building up the fiscal year 28 budget. So it's on our radar, and him and I have been in communication about trying to do something after that.
Well, so reading through this is actually the time that we're supposed to be coming back in March, and we're supposed to be looking over this and then deciding if we're going to add new things. That's actually the time. The time is actually now.
I think at least by June.
Yeah, I don't really want to wait until another 2 budget cycles away to add things to our list. And we've gotten a lot of things off, and I think that we should, as per the direction in the documents, that we should look at this. If not tonight, maybe a different time. If we can't get Patrick, maybe we could have at least make it a discussion that we look at the items that we've had, the percentages, put a visual to it, and exactly, and then we can add things, because I think we all probably do have things that, and I know that capacity will take that into consideration, and that's kind of why we did the strategic meeting, was to understand capacity levels of staff. But I do think that there are some things that council wants to focus on, that maybe even hyper focus on, things that we feel like that aren't moving fast enough, that we may want to make a priority, and we just want some time to be able to do that.
So what my plan was actually at the April 2nd meeting, because I think we have a good framework and baseline from the strategic planning, because it's got good headings in terms of what we're looking at, is April 2nd, I was going to prepare an outline and kind of in correlation with our strategic plan to ask the council, you specifically, what you guys are looking for in the budget. So it's kind of a kickoff to preparing the budget. So, and I was going to kind of mention this in the announcements, but I can mention it now, is just to be prepared that, at the April 2nd meeting, to have some ideas of what you guys are looking for in the upcoming budget cycle. And I think we can, and if there are some additional, we can look at our accomplishments and kind of get an idea of where we're at. But we can also include the new projects. We're asking the same of departments to do. And if there's any new initiatives that we're looking for, we can do that as well. But I think we still, based on the overall approaches and the overall headings that we have built into the strategic program, I think that we can continue those efforts. I don't know if we've completely satisfied those, because a lot of this implementation has been in the last probably 6 to 8 months. And so if there's things we want to add, change, I think we can definitely do that, knowing that we've gone through the process. And then we can, I think if we want to go through that formal process again, that was just in talking to Patrick, but I think we have a framework to be able to kind of move forward. But we'll definitely be asking that of you guys at the next meeting.
It would be helpful to have that visual representation maybe by that meeting.
That will probably be impossible.
Probably.
Because I will be gone next week.
Okay. It would be helpful, but.
Okay. But I can bring a lot to the table though.
Okay.
We'll
It doesn't have to be
I'll see what we can do.
Okay. One second here. I'm gonna see if I can get this up on my screen here. Yeah, no, I was just looking to see if there's anything else on this thing. I'd seen on here that there was a roadmap for strategic plan that we were working on. And I wanted to make sure that we were just following that roadmap. So I was just trying to look for it to make sure that we keep on that. Because I think when we did this, we did this specifically to make sure that that roadmap was followed, and that's kind of what we all agreed on. And I know that especially when things change, like hey, like let's say that it's not in the roadmap right now to handle some of those finance things. Let's remove some of those things from the plate. That way that there's not overhanging fruit on there. Let's readjust timelines to make them realistic. Let's replace them with things that we may be able to focus on staff time better. That's the kind of what I'm looking at doing that. So that's why I kind of want a higher level overview than just coming to your budget time and then we're tasked with trying to bring forth items at that point in time. I really do think that this is something that we should have more of a formal deal with, so that we have 2 new council members here that weren't here during the strategic plan, may not completely know what those headings are. So I want to revisit that, and I think it was the goal that we were going to revisit it year 1. Yeah, we were going to revisit it, and I don't want to skip that process because I feel like that's the most important part of it for council and the staff to understand where we're at. And if we skip that, then all we've done is allow things to be pushed down the road and accountability not to be laid in on both of our sides. We have the public, you guys have the staff and everyone. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page is all.
Yeah, no, for sure. And what I can do is I can distribute the report that came from Patrick back in May. I think it's based on when we did it last year, because we didn't do it. I think we did it pretty much after the budget was almost adopted last year. And so we're not even a year into it yet. And so I think that's when I talked with Patrick, the plan was to kind of look at it. Because I think we'd never done one before. And so I don't think we were gonna basically accomplish everything. But what I'll do is I'll send you guys the report, and so you guys can see that. That's kind of what I was going to go based on my outline to have those conversations, to kind of look at the overall overreaching goals and objectives that the council came up with at the time. And of course, with new council, we can definitely take input, and if there are other types of overreaching goals we want to try to look at, including types of projects. I know we really established kind of a project list and what the priorities were of the council at that time.
Right. So my thing is I just want to make sure we're current on that and make sure that the current council that we have now supports those same goals. I don't want to, and so I mean, maybe this is a future agenda item where we set a special day to where we can come in and we'll a special meeting just to do this, just to go over this. That way it's not clouded with a bunch of other stuff.
Maybe. Yeah, because it's not about just adding new items. It's kind of
we just
an
want to
overview of where we're at on everything, what room we have.
Yeah. So maybe we'll add that as a agenda item rather than. Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Any other comments on numbers 5, 7? Okay, we're gonna move on to 5, 8. Approve budget adjustment for fire department LED sign. So
did you have a specific question or just general
is,
information?
Yeah. So I was looking at the pictures of it.
Actually, Robert, can you bring that up for me? The sign estimate attachment.
Yeah, that's how I have to look at it.
We got to screen our neck. Okay. Yes, sir.
So my question is that how much? I know it's in the report. What it's like another $20,000 to make it glow. Is that basically what it is? Is that what we're doing?
Well, the original was LED as well. So let me start off by saying that the original sign was approved as part of the Envision 2025 workshop, where we discussed landscaping improvements to the fire department. That was paint, landscaping, and signage. So we approved that. Chief Milligan was assigned the project. He found a sign and the original sign was going to be next to the existing concrete sign we have that just says Coalinga Fire Department in metal letters that's not illuminated. It was going to stand next to it. It was basically on a pedestal, and it was this kind of square box LED, 2-sided, that was going to give some information. that we could put information up there about events going on, fire safety messages, stuff like that. Everything changed July 29th after the budget was adopted on July 1st, when a vehicle being pursued by Fresno County Sheriff crashed into our facility. And it damaged the existing block wall. Not significant damage to where it's going to fall over, but there's noticeable cracks now. And over time, the cracks are starting to kind of spread. So Chief Milligan, that was assigned original project, came to me and said, hey, what do you think about redoing this and maybe replacing that? So we went to the city manager, gave him our suggestion, and he gave us approval to start working on it, researching, and bring it back to council. As luck would have it, the city was in the process of working on the sign for the downtown project. So we contacted that individual and got what you see up there right now. This sign is much larger. It's longer, taller, and more of a base monument sign than the original design that we initially proposed, because this is now replacing the damaged one. So this will be in that location, and then the project also added the Elm Street signage on the wall on Elm Street that wasn't originally in the project, is now being added to the project to spruce that up, to make that illuminated right there. Thank you. And so that's the reason for the increase in cost, but it's a much better sign, a better quality sign. We're getting the Elm Street sign that's visible to the public, and the aesthetics of the station will look much better. And like I said, it's only happening because of the vehicle accident that ran into the sign.
So we're still getting the sign with information?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that was my question. I was just like, because I was hoping that the sign with the information we were still getting.
We are actually getting it bigger, better, and brighter.
Okay, perfect.
He's being cordial. I want to make sure that the sign that was originally there, I wanted to make sure was of higher quality so we could read it. Based on what they had prepared, we looked at it and wanted to do a little bit of an upgrade to it, and so we knew there was going to be some costs. And I told them I would support coming to you guys asking for a little bit more money, and also sprucing up the light, the lettering on the other side as well. But yeah, this is definitely an upgraded sign. It'll actually connect with it's the same brand sign that we have in the plaza. So actually, if Jasenia is going to be using it or Mariana is going to use it, they will have access, and they can actually talk to both signs too. So
very cool, very cool.
And these guys are local when it comes to repairs. The original sign, I think we would have had to hire a separate electrician or like sign company to come out to actually work on the sign, the actual LED portion. But there's not local in Coalinga, but local in the valley that can actually do maintenance work on these things too.
Correct. Correct. And this is dual-sided, so you'll see it both come in both directions.
Yeah.
That's great. Any other questions from council? Seeing none, thank you, Chief.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate that. Number 9, approve fiscal year mid-year budget review and adopt resolution 4311, approving recommendations for revising fiscal year 25-26 operating and capital budgets. I'll just get right to the chase on this. I think it's great that we're doing the budget reviews like this, and the changes to the budget, so that at the end of the year that we're on par with our audits and stuff. The only thing that I would request is that when we do these and when we're giving the information to the council, that I see that it says like 9 million at the end of the year on the end of the year budget, but also some of that money is just money that isn't going to be spent on projects this year that's going to carry over. What I'm interested in seeing is, okay, you guys have changed the budget this year. You've added more money. So now we're changing the budget to make sure that happens. I want to see what that end number would have been. How much did it go up or how much did it go down, to see where we're at? Because we had a healthy starting general fund, and then we had a healthy ending general fund. And then now it's even way healthier because the fact that we probably have some projects that aren't going to be done. So I would just like to see that number, what it would be kind of without that. If you want to include the projects too, that's fine, because of course it's probably required for this. But I'd just like to see like how much money did we go over? Like how much more did we spend?
And I have that number for you too, Mayor.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's what you're seeing in the mid-year, but I know what the mayor's asking in terms is we're going to carry over probably some projects. I think it's about $1.2 million that'll probably carry over to next year, and a lot of that has to do with the engine. But our the ending fund balance based on the mid-year budget, because it already includes the transfers of revenues, was 9.3 million in the fund balance. If we expended all of the projects, it'd be 8.6.
So question, we started off with like 4 point something. How do we get to 8.6? The starting fund balance. Well, yeah, but he's saying that even with the carryover, that's where we're sitting. Because I remember when we started, when we talked about the budget, the starting number, our starting budget was what, in between 3 and 4 million.
I have my answer to that because I don't know if that's.
I will have to look at last fiscal year when we started the budget process, but just the beginning of the fiscal year, we were actually at 9.3 million for fund balance.
And was this due to carryover projects from before?
No, because we didn't. Well, possibly, but we didn't budget that way last fiscal year, so I don't actually have that information.
Because I remember we had around a $4 million healthy general fund starting balance, and then we had almost 4 million in reserves. And so is this money including reserve count money too, or is this just general fund?
It's just general fund, but let me take a look at last fiscal year.
8.6. If we would have done all of the one-time projects identified in the budget, we'd still end up with a $8.6 million fund balance in the general fund.
So we can get together on this and we can figure that part out. The only part that I just really wanted to focus on is that we, when we look at this, I just want to have it broken out. How much more money did we spend? Because if we're doing these budget reviews and we're doing these adjustments to the budget, I just want to see how much did we adjust that budget. So I'll get with you later and we'll figure out the starting and ending numbers. But I just want to make sure that when we move forward that we can understand it, because if we're spending a bunch more money and we don't know how much that is, and then next year comes around and we're, obviously we're doing the adjustments so we're not deficit spending. That's the goal of this, because we do have a healthy general fund. So anyhow, any other questions on this before we move on? No? All right. Number 12, authorize city manager to execute agreement with RJP Latchkey LLC. And I just wanted to pull this just for public knowledge of what's happening with that.
Yeah, so we put a request in. There's a pump jack over at the old Claremont facility, and we put a request in to the property owner to see if they would donate the pump jack. I know that prior councilman Hedgecock had talked about wanting to do kind of bringing back some of the Iron Zoo around town and some pump jacks and get those cleaned up. And so we reached out to the owners, and they've agreed to donate so this is just basically the council accepting the donation as normal if we receive a donation. And so that's pretty much what we're requesting on the action tonight. And then once we start accumulating some of them, we're going to be identifying some locations that we want to, we'll be putting them around town.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. So we have items 5.1 through 13. Entertain a motion.
Move to approve the consent calendar. Were there any changes? No changes. Yeah.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes. Consent calendar passes. Item number 6.1, Ordinance presentation, discussion, potential action items, direction, and potential action regarding employee permit and background check requirements in the city's cannabis regulations.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This was a request to bring back for further discussion so we can direct our consultants to update the language as they're finalizing the cannabis update on the cannabis regulations. But one of the discussions that we talked about at the last meeting was related to the employee permits and background check requirements. So basically, staff's looking for direction from the council in terms of how you'd like to proceed with this. As you know, how we currently handle it is for all employee permits, owners, and all employees working in the cannabis industry are required to go through live scan fingerprinting through California Department of Justice. We do full background investigations, and then that basically results in either a disapproval or final approval of the employee permit based on qualifying or disqualifying offenses or prior offenses by the applicant. So we provided some options. I know you could pretty much do a menu of options if you'd like, but we have a few options for the council to consider, which is basically live scan for all employees, full investigation for the property owners or for the owners of the business. We could look at owners only doing the background checks and eliminate all employee permit and background check requirements for cannabis employees, and then continue requiring live scan fingerprinting and full background investigation for all owners and individuals with financial interest. Or another option is defaulting to state law, which would eliminate all local background check requirements and the employee permit system and rely entirely on state licensing requirements administered through the Department of Cannabis Control. But these are our regulations. These are the options we can go through in terms of what the council would prefer to go through. So there's definitely many options. I've been talking with the chief about the possibility. I know one of the big issues with the employee permits and talking with folks in the industry is the cost associated with the employee permits. And so I think I think the employee permits currently are $629 per employee. And so we've listened, we've heard from some of the folks in the industry in terms of some of the concerns. And in talking with the chief, I think, they're still interested in trying to uphold and continue the live scan process. It's relatively inexpensive for the live scan. And they even can do very, limited backgrounds. I think the biggest thing in the conversations with the chief is, and I'll allow Jose to talk as well, is looking at out-of-state violations that are consistent with offenses that would be disqualifying in California. And I think they feel like they can do that relatively quick and inexpensive. Something consistent, probably close to what we charge for the local resident employee permit, which is $200. So that is an option. I'll let the chief elaborate if you'd like. But I'd like, just to hear from the council. I know there's some folks from the industry here too, if they have any comments. But I know, and Jesse's been in constant communication with them, kind of providing them some feedback as we've had some internal communications with staff, kind of having those conversations with them as well. So I think there's a lot of openness to making some type of change, but also trying to balance and ensure the ultimate goal long term was to maintain public safety under our cannabis ordinances. So with that, Mayor, I'll leave it up to you.
Yeah, Chief.
Unless the chief wants to.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to add that the background that the department does, the live scan and the application is the beginning of the background. They're not separate. And we just want to make sure that we have investigative tools that we use and investigation that the California Department of Justice live scan doesn't show, specific out of state. And we want to make sure that those who are applying from out of state and they come into our community is not going to cause any harm to our community. So we just want to make sure that we do a thorough job. And like I said, it doesn't take very long to do the background, but it also, before I sign the package, I know exactly, if in fact, if that person has any other type of record outside the state of California.
All right. Sean, did you want to go into detail on this, or just give us the options and we're going to kind of discuss them? Open it up to council.
Yeah, definitely open to you guys. We've provided in the report some of the options that the council has, but really it's kind of a menu of what you guys are looking for. State law just does live scans for owners. So if you default to state law and remove that from our ordinances, then we would just rely on live scans being conducted at the state level for owners, but no employees would receive any type of review.
So I guess let's, if anyone has questions for the chief specifically, we should do those first then.
Just want to add that I also have Officer Matsuzuki Saki that's here. He does all the backgrounds. So if you need any, he could explain briefly on the process, or if you need additional information, I can answer the best I can. But he actually does the backgrounds, and he'll give you just a short overview.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of City Council. If I could just, before I get started tonight, if I can just maybe do some bona fides here. Some of you already know me. We've met. I've had the privilege of meeting you. But you probably also know me by reputation because quarterly you will receive my inspection reports, as the chief has indicated. Also, too, I do the backgrounds for the department. So any questions I can answer in particular that you might have?
Go ahead.
The industry's here. It's accepted. So a lot of the stigma has been disproven. I think the chief has expressed his concerns. I think minimizing at best is, I don't know how much is an in-house background check. I mean, it's important because the product does have value. So yeah, you do want to know who's around it and who's involved. But we have an in-house option that's cheap, so it relieves the burden from them, so they're not putting $100 into one person in and out. We have like a fast track background that they use here at the police department that we can utilize to relieve that burden from them, so we can keep them here and allow them to just keep the facilities here.
Councilmember Louder, if I can maybe explain the process, what we currently use, and some of the evolution through this process since I've been tasked with this responsibility, I think might answer these questions. So myself, the commander, and also the chief, we have met on several occasions since the last city council meeting in preparation for tonight. And the commander had asked me, he goes, how long does it take to do a background on a candidate? And from start to finish, it's about a 2-hour process. This is factored in. I said, however, it requires actually 2 members of the department. One is from our technical analyst, Stacy Anderson, and she will actually start this process from the minute the candidate comes into our police department. The live scanning, and then also too upon receipt. A little levity here. I was joking with the chief. It probably takes me the longest to collate and packetize an application that has been approved and ready for his signature than the actual background itself. When he tasked me with this position, he said, Kent, I need you to do 2 things. I need you to do inspections and get these backgrounds up and running. And so my goal has always been to shorten that time so our stakeholder partners over there in the cannabis industry can hurry up and have their employees on site, and they actually have their identification card. So when Ms. Anderson takes receipt from the Department of Justice on the live scan, this turnaround time is maybe a day, and I'm already starting to work on the backgrounds. And we use other tools, as the chief has also expressed, and so that we get a fuller picture, not only from the Department of Justice, that will allow us a perspective in California only. We want to broaden that perspective, also look out of state. So if I may, just for a moment, explain what are those factors for rejection of a candidate. We're looking at crimes of moral turpitude. So those are like manslaughter, murder, mayhem, robbery, kidnapping, child molestation, bigamy. I've probably investigated in my time as a cop all of them except for bigamy, but those are those precluding factors. Um, the, the point the chief wants to make is that we want to see a candidate in their fullest form, because if they've committed any of these crimes out of state, the live scan might not allow us that perspective. And so this way, we could provide the fullest picture of a candidate's status. What we will see sometimes from a DOJ live scan, though, is if there's an extraditable offense. So the three of us were discussing this last week in the meeting. We call this in the law enforcement jargon wants and warrants on a candidate. So if we see that, ever so often DOJ will provide us with that information and we can act upon that. This turnaround process, a few days, it's to a fine science. One of the questions, I can't recall whether the commander or the chief had asked me this, was, does a peace officer have to do this, or could we have a non-sworn personnel? Preferably, you always want to have a peace officer do these background investigations, because when I'm doing them, I know what to look for. I'm bringing to you almost 30 years of law enforcement experience. I have the training, have the background, and also, too, understand the confidentiality that's required. These backgrounds are kept on file and ultimately will be destroyed. But at best, only 3 people in our organization will ever have hands on them. That's how secure we keep them. And they're also firewalled on there. So that's a brief snippet of the background investigation process that we currently do use. Before, I think the turnaround time was 3 weeks to a month for a candidate. We're doing much better than that, council member. And that's for our cannabis partners.
Yeah, again, I think it's important to know who's coming in and out of the community, especially involved with some of this kind of business.
Yes,
how much does that cost the owners per candidate?
2 hours on our part. That's it.
No money involved?
Nope. That's the actual cost from the city of Coalinga.
So I have a couple questions. How many have we denied since we've started the process?
I can only account for what I have been tasked with. We've had no rejections.
0. So out of all of these folks, we haven't rejected even one. That's interesting.
And it's also just says that the thorough job we're doing is a good deterrence from those who want to apply for employees for the business.
That's one thing you could suggest. I mean, the other thing is that why is this important to do it to this industry and not the bar, where all of the crime actually occurs?
Or my shop.
Or yeah, why this industry? Why does this industry the impact? What's so important about this? Because I can tell you, I've done the crime stats on this. This industry is one of the least crime driven in the entire city of Coalinga. It's the least. So why are we focusing on this one compared to others? And just actually a quick question, if you could, would you also background check the bars and the people that work there?
Mayor, I believe when this all started here in Coalinga and how it was regulated and city managers at the beginning of that, all those regulations were placed on doing a background thorough and not on these businesses that you're suggesting. So that's.
Yeah, no, we started off with the state and we wanted to make something because we didn't know where it was going to go. We didn't know how things were going to go. And we had, tons of people in here that had different opinions. And I do remember, and I think Sean was here for this as well, that we had said at some point in time, we're going to make this like any other business. And I think we've been very slow to do that. And I think that the burden on the industry has been tremendous. And I think we've lost business because of it. How long it has been taken in the past to make this done, and then also the investment. Actually, I think the investment actually can deter employers from getting rid of bad employees, because now they have to turn around and do this process again. And so my thing with this originally was like, hey, public safety, but I knew that we hadn't denied anybody. So that's interesting to me that we haven't denied anybody. So then I'm wondering, like, what's the purpose? Is the general purpose just to keep up with what we had done in the past? Because if that's the case, I think we're ready to make change. So that wouldn't serve the purpose any longer. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't do anything, but I'm just saying, like, I think the industry themselves should have some accountability in background checking their own folks if they're worried about this. I mean, at my business, at all the rest of the businesses in town, I think everyone should have some kind of accountability. I think that if we want to be the most business-friendly city, as we've said, that we need to actually be business-friendly. And I think that we have a structure for cannabis that is, because the rules the state has put, which, by the way, the state has all kinds of things wrong with them, but this isn't one of them. We're doing this to ourselves. So I've heard that people in the industry saying that our background process and the employee fees and all that is really high, and it's really hard for them to compete. And so, I think that I'd like to see this somewhere where the state is on this, but since we haven't had any denied, and we hardly have any any crime out there. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just curious. You mentioned earlier a concern about out of state. How many out of state applications have you processed?
Everyone's checked for out of state. Every application.
So that doesn't mean that they are coming from out of state looking for a job. It just means that you're checking their out of state background. Right. Okay. I was confused.
If I can add something on that, Chief, some of those candidates, I think that's what you're referring to. They came from an out-of-state residence at some point in time, and so that was our rationale for checking their backgrounds with them, just to ensure that they had no criminal types of histories there. And if I can also answer a couple things the mayor brought up regarding the chief. Yes, ABC does require backgrounds for people who are getting an alcohol license in the state of California. I know that real well, having done several investigations involving criminal investigations actually in bars. The mandate, though, however, is they kind of create an umbrella over their employees, and they're responsible for training and educating their employees on the sales of alcohol. For example, not selling to minors, et cetera, and so forth like that. And also, too, I've seen a pattern just in regards to what the mayor was voicing in regards to why we have not had any rejections. I think it's also bad for business. So as our partners over there are putting forth a candidate, they do not want a problematic candidate in their midst. And two, they're making at that rate a tremendous investment. So I think you have multiple safeguards, and that's why our current city ordinance is so effective.
My thing with this is I just want to make sure that we're safe, but at the same time, I want to make sure that the industry is willing to come back. A lot of people have left. We have tons of places that are open, and people won't come here. And I keep hearing from folks that it's because of the rules that we have. And so I'm like, okay, well, what can we do to make it better for them? I don't know, maybe there's some kind of compromise that we could do to, I understand the chief's point of view. I mean, but here's my question. If you could background check everyone that works at the bar, would you do that as well? Since that's where the crime is actually at. Just saying. Not trying to put you on the spot, but I'm just saying, let's go where the crime is. The crime's at the bar, the crime's at the liquor store, the crimes are with all kinds of things that aren't in this industry.
So I have a question about the state law. Yeah. Does the state require owners? And what is the owner exactly? The owner operator or the owner of the chain, or where's that?
The owner of the business, and then anybody has, I think, a certain percentage of like 20% or more financial interest in the business. Yeah.
So but
owner plus any financial interest.
Right. So, but do the owners do the hiring? I mean that matters. If
either they have HR or I mean
okay, that's kind of what I'm getting at. So if we were going to do that, we would want to extend it to the people doing the hiring, at least.
Yeah, I don't know how
minimum.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Everyone can be structured differently, so I'm not sure.
I don't know what it would matter having an owner that lived in New York or wherever. So what's the state law on that? There's no background checks on anybody?
Just the owners.
Oh,
And
on the owner?
I think just light scans on the owners too. I don't know if they do full background. I don't think they do full backgrounds on the owners. It's in here.
So while we're looking these things up, we do have some members from the industry that are here tonight. Would you guys like to chime in on this? Perfect. If you could come to the either of the microphones. Hey, I appreciate, and if we have questions, we will follow up.
Owners just have to submit fingerprints through Department of Justice for light scans for the state.
Thanks for putting this on the docket tonight. We appreciate you taking the time. This is something that's really important to us because we're new to the city. We just took over Next Green Wave as Merck Enterprise. I personally been an operator in the cannabis industry since 2006. I've hired pretty much all my own employees. I've done background checks. We do them through, I have a friend of mine that actually owns a background check company, and we do that through him at a really minimal cost. It costs us between $8 and $12 per each background check. To be honest with you, we haven't had issues within our facilities as we've been operating, like I said, over 20 years. I've operated in multiple states. I've operated in other countries. And cannabis has this stigma because of where it comes from and how it's been portrayed through the history. But when you really look at it and you look at the stats of what's happened, especially in America since we've started medical marijuana and now we're going to recreational, you're not seeing those things to be reality. And most of the people in the cannabis industry are really peaceful, that aren't like criminal minded. There is a criminal element, right? There's bank robbers, there's people who break into buildings and like they steal even like copper pipe if like you have a construction site. We have a product that's valuable, and that's up to us to make sure we maintain that. I met with you. We're actually interested in trying to integrate into the camera system that you guys have so that we could have higher security when we're shut down at night. We've hired an armed guard that is outside the facility, and they're there from when we close to when our security shows up. When it comes to the safety at our facilities, we take pride in that. And we, as you were asking about HR, we have an HR. We work with a company outside that handles all of our HR, and they do all the contracts for each employee individually. One of the things, though, that made us have the conversation to even have you guys consider this is, like, when we're operating, we're hiring a lot of, it's like hard labor. And some people, they find out that it's not even for them. And like they come on the job and within 2 days, they don't want to work there. Or, you know, after a month, they're like, you know, this isn't for me. And so we like to bring in like teams, and we have companies that we hire that we outsource employees where they'll come in and they'll have like a team that comes in and they'll de-leaf the whole room, and then they'll come in on harvest days and they'll help us do the harvest, and they'll help us clean up to get ready for the plants to go in. And that it's like really important to us than having to have like this huge staff. It's these teams that come in on the days that they're needed, and it's all they focus on. They're professionals at what they do. They're in and out. There's not it's not a science where we have a really proven method. Our team is the most awarded team in the entire world when it comes to cannabis. And so we take a lot of pride in what we do and the quality, and we're actually really excited to bring that quality to Coalinga. and to, you know, put Coalinga on the map for being some of the best cannabis in the world and the best cannabis in the world. And so, like, we stand in front of you, and we appreciate that you're having this conversation, and we hope that it goes in a direction where, you know, this is a low cost thing. When you're asking an employee that's getting paid a labor rate to pay $600, no employee is going to do that. And it's been proven, like, the operators and that have come through here, it hasn't been successful for whatever reasons. We plan on changing that, and we've been working already, communicating with the city and making changes so that we could operate at a higher level. And so I just want to say thank you. And that's it.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Does anyone have, you okay to entertain any questions since you're here? Anyone have questions? I just want to say thank you.
No, thank you.
I think that was a $20 million building when it was built or something like that. It was a real expensive building, and we didn't want to see that go to waste. And, you know, some really good people put that together, and unfortunately, like you say, practice didn't equal success, and so we're hoping you guys can make those changes and be successful.
And one last thing just to leave you with is the market for cannabis has come down a lot. The margins are really tight, and so these businesses, as we're operating, these are the places where it hurts. And so, like, if we could help to loosen the screws a little bit, we take pride in who we hire, and we make sure that it's safe, and we're going to continue to do so because I want to get home to my family every night. I have 3 kids, and I want to ensure my own safety. And so, you know, we take pride in that. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, council. What do we want to do? Any suggestions?
I think it's time to remove the stigma. It's an industry that's here. It's on a downfall. We need to help them stay in Coalinga. They're prideful to be here, and I think they need to be treated like every other business. I think there just needs to be also some agreement with the chief. I think minimizing it to as small as we can get, I think, is important. I think that the state already has things in place that oversee the owners and the operators. I think that's good.
So are you thinking that we should move to what the state says? Or are you thinking that we should move to, I mean, as I see it, like, kind of listening to what, understanding previous council conversations, you know, we could go with the background plus the live scan. We could go with just the live scan, or we could go with a list being given to the chief of who their employees are. You know, those all come with costs. The $200 that they were talking about, or about the $50 or $60 range, or the nothing range, and we employ a list. I mean, I'm looking at, like, what we've talked about, so I like that too. I'll be honest with you. You want to make it into a motion?
I will motion to eliminate and follow state regulations.
It's been moved.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Seeing none? All right. You have direction? And you're going to bring us back something, correct?
Yeah, so what'll happen is we'll at least have details on this now. We can let our consultants know, and they'll incorporate that language and remove language out of the ordinance to reflect those.
And will we need to bring this back?
No, it'll come back in the form of an ordinance when it circulates through the official ordinance revision. So those will be adjusted through the ordinance.
And will this take effect immediately?
It does not take effect immediately.
So how long?
I think this is probably the last area, but it does have to go out through planning commission and then council for multiple hearings. It'd probably take about a month and a half or so.
Okay.
If not a little bit longer, depending on the hearings. It takes 3 hearings.
All right.
And usually goes into effect 30 days after.
I do want to say one comment.
Yeah.
This is a sensitive one for a lot of the public and the chief and anybody out there. You know, commodity pricing being where it's at. You know, in this current economic market that you're in and everybody's in. You know, with labor being what it is, and growing costs, input costs, commodity pricing being down, and the history of the background checks that have not been rejected. I think this is a pretty sound decision. I want to reiterate that because there's a lot of sensitivity behind this particular topic, and given all the evidence presented in this is really important. You know, that we highlight, you know, why we came to this decision, not just making the decision based on a biased opinion, but based on facts. And so we understand that. So
thank you. All right. So we're going to move on to item number 6.2, outdoor food court concept, request for direction to proceed with final design and cost estimating.
All right. Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is the initial concept plan for the outdoor food court project. And I think Robert's got it up for us. Thank you. So basically, we've kind of put together some information. We've talked with our architect, and they've developed a preliminary plan for the outdoor food court. It basically includes vendor space, central dining and gathering area, shade and landscaping. There's actually a stage and performance area. It includes lighting and safety features. There's a family-friendly activity area that we put up in the kind of the top middle of that image. There's restroom facilities, and then it basically creates a flexible event space. So this will accommodate pop-up markets, community gatherings, and other downtown activity. There are areas for food trucks. The rectangles that are kind of along the peripheral, along the buildings, there's 2 sets of seat trains on each side, plus 2 on Elm Avenue. And then you have kind of a central gathering seating area. The kind of triangle features adjacent to the seat trains are shade structures, or basically shade sails. We have some pervious, non-pervious surfaces, decomposed granite, Synlon in front of the stage, and then plans are also to look at incorporating some mural designs on the buildings as well. So I think it provides ample shade. We know it gets hot. We've got string lighting that can be involved, misters, other things to kind of keep folks cool in the summer. So this could be hopefully an all year round attraction. It'll allow opportunities for, local businesses that are looking for, maybe in-home businesses that are looking for locations to be able to occupy, whether it be for short terms or long terms. We've been in some communication with some local home occupation businesses that are interested in utilizing this space. So it could definitely be used for either a long-term use or, short-term uses for being able to sell. Because as we know with home occupations, they're not supposed to be treating their front porch as a retail space. And so this gives them the opportunity to be able to sell products outside of just a community event. So with that, we're just kind of seeking any initial feedback, shock and awe. It's beautiful. As soon as we kind of get the feedback from you, if anybody from the public has any kind of comments, then we can proceed forward with getting full design and get that completed most likely by probably June-ish or so. Get the final design, and then we'll start developing some cost estimates. So as we start developing the budget for fiscal year 27, we'll add a price tag to the construction and hopefully construct this next year.
You just scared us all.
This is gonna be a highlight. It's a perfect spot. It's a perfect area. It's exactly what we need. We need to support our local vendors who are very involved in everything we got going on in town. They show up everywhere, and for them to have a spot where they can be almost every weekend if they wanted to be, I think it's a very cool thing. I think this would be a perfect opportunity to implement Councilman Arroyo's idea of having a bar graph completion out front so the public can see. We're at 80%, right around the corner. Same thing with splash pad. Let's get one. Let's get. Yeah.
And as soon as we can approve the concept and we have a budget, well, we'll put that coming soon sign up for you too.
So, I'd like to see more trash cans. Well, I looked at this in depthly and I was thinking to myself, trash cans probably need to be everywhere. Right. I think that, well, there is, if you see it, the top left.
Those will be addressed in the final design.
Alley. And the other thing is that, just a quick question, do we plan on allowing the sale of alcohol?
So there would be, anybody that would ultimately, if we get someone that wants to be permanent here and wants to have alcohol sales, that's something we could definitely probably permit. Or if we have community events or someone's looking, it'd just be a nonprofit that would have to sponsor a beer, basically a daily license that we typically go through and signed off by the police department.
Okay.
So yeah, any community event would permit it.
Any questions or comments from council?
I mean, I think I'm gonna go piggyback, and I think everybody's thinking the same thing with the vendors and how much they've shown up to support Clean Youth Baseball, Wings of the West Side, all the events, the sports events. I think we owe it to the vendors that have came out and supported and that are working as a team for the community. And I just want to say that I think this is a really good idea, and I think we're gonna get a lot of public in these spots and a lot of attendance, and it's gonna be a perfect show right where it's at. So I'm excited about it. I think it's a great idea.
I do too, and I think when the Caltrans Nightmare on Elm Street comes down, that this will be a bright spot. Because when it comes down to the taking away some lanes and adding walking area, this is actually going to be a bright spot for that. And so I like it. I think it looks great. I share your exact sentiment that this is going to be a thing that I think our local vendors and our community is going to look at as a very, very positive type of thing. Any other comments or questions? All right, so you have our direction. We don't need to vote or nothing, right? No?
No, we'll get our proposal together with our consultant, since it's a one-time project. We can move forward with with working with our engineers to get that designed up.
All right. So 6.3, Washington D.C. advocacy trip update.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I have just a brief update from the trip. So as everyone's aware, city representatives recently traveled to D.C. as part of a federal advocacy effort coordinated through Townsend Public Affairs, who's our advocacy lobbyist. The purpose of the trip was to meet with federal agencies and congressional offices to discuss issues impacting the city of Coalinga and to advocate for federal funding opportunities. Meetings were held with several federal agencies and congressional offices, including the FAA, U.S. Department of Transportation, the Department of Justice, Bureau of Reclamation, and members of the Central Valley Congressional Delegation. Discussions focused on several city priorities, including airport infrastructure improvements, water infrastructure and gas infrastructure, transportation funding opportunities, public safety resources, and economic development activities. Overall, the meetings were productive and helped strengthen relationships with federal agencies and congressional staff while positioning the city for potential funding opportunities. So with that, I can give a little bit more. Do you want me to give a little? I can give a little bit more of kind of what our meetings were about, who experience. But we met with Department of Justice, talked about a lot of things, talked about the federal grants COPS program and a lot of the opportunities the city has. And so we've been in contact. I've already reached out to our grant writers and kind of give them a task and finding opportunities for the city in terms of the priorities that we talked about in our discussions. It even went as far as talking about the school resource officer, talking about their micro grants program, kind of allowing us to think outside the box in certain types of opportunities for law enforcement, the cops hiring program, and also some free training resources that they offer. And so I provided some of that information to the chief already, so they're already looking into some of those opportunities because they do offer a lot of free technical assistance to the officers. We met with Officer Senator Padilla's office and talked about our water projects. We had specific earmark projects that we kind of received from the council in terms of what we need, what the council wanted us to talk about and request in terms of federal earmarks. So we talked about our water infrastructure projects with Officer Padilla's office, putting in those requests, and those requests have been submitted as well from Townsend. We met with Bureau of Reclamation, talked about water and grant opportunities. They have a Water Smart program, and so we're looking into opportunities. I know I received an email after I sent out all my follow-up emails to all the different agencies and our congressional delegation that they did release the notice of funding availability for the Water Smart program. So Blaze and Associates is kind of looking into those programs to see if there's anything that might work for us with that opportunity. We had a meeting with Adam Gray's office and talked to them about our earmark project for, I'm looking at you like you weren't there, for our natural gas priority project to replace a significant amount of the old steel lines, as well as hopefully try to strategically replace some of these anode beds as well as part of that earmark. We talked to Senator Adam Schiff's office and talked more about our water project and also the earmark for the airport as well with his office. Talked to the FAA, and they did keep us busy, by the way. We had back-to-back meetings for 2 days straight, but had good conversations with FAA folks, talking about grant opportunities and just looking at different, really just what are those opportunities for funding, and what are some tips and what are some things that we need to do to position ourselves to be successful long term as they know now that we're really trying to emphasize the airport and grow the airport. They helped us with some strategic, strategy in terms of how we can position ourselves to be ready for the funding that comes out, as well as take advantage of the funding that's dedicated to the city as it being a federally funded airport. Department of Transportation, we talked to them about Safer Streets program, as well as talking to them about just opportunities and addressing some concerns that we have as a local community, a small community, being able to take advantage of the billions of dollars that are available at the federal level for streets and highways. And so we received a lot of good information from them. And so, again, our grant writers have received a lot of this debrief, so they know kind of what to look for. So I have them working. I'll let the rest of the council kind of update on our meeting with Zoe Lofgren, who is going to be our new Assemblywoman moving into the next year, as Adam Gray's office with the new redistricting will shift out of our district. So we were able to spend some time talking with Zoe, who's going to be our new district representative. And then lastly, I think our last meeting was with the House Committee of Agriculture, which is a subcommittee on rural development. Had a lot of good discussion about USDA's programs, and which are really geared towards small communities. And so we received summaries of USDA's rural development programs, a matrix of their rural development programs, and then they had a local agriculture market program, and then basically agriculture and food research initiative. And so a lot of information that came back to us from DC. So we have a lot of resources to build upon, but now hand it over to the mayor and Roger.
Yeah, let you go.
Yeah, it was an essential trip actually. I'm starting to see the benefits of this. It was busy, definitely 2 full days. One thing that I took away from it is that, with the exception of one office, I don't know if I should name anybody, but I felt really welcome, like they were listening. One of the best, I think, most productive visits we had was DOJ. Lots of stuff for safety, police, crosswalks, crossing guards. So, yeah, it was good. I'm gonna write out Padilla. What do you think? Yeah, that was the one that was kind of a letdown. They met us in the hallway and did an elbow bump, but the rest of them were great. And they actually sat and heard us.
I'm sorry.
So, Padilla. Yeah, that's enough said, I think.
All right, so this meeting was very productive. 9 to 5, back to back to back. And let me tell you, every single city department we took into mind, especially the police. We are going to bring back you some money. It's going to happen. We are going to make it happen. Sean has portals. He has information. Resource officer was the top of the list. We were only supposed to get a very small amount of time, but they were really interested in the fact that we came and that we didn't come with a big group. So they gave us more time. And the DOJ folks, they were very interested in helping us. And so some of the things that we didn't realize we had access to, we didn't realize that we could qualify for, we will. And so the thing that they left us with is just don't just visit us once a year. As in, like, hey, we don't have to go back, but we can make a phone call, right? Call them at some point in time and say, hey, like, we want to reconnect with you, we want to retouch base with you. And I think specifically towards, PD, we went up there because we had some asks that we wanted to get. But towards PD, I do see that there is quite a large opportunity for us to get you guys some funding on all angles, and also to let you be able to work with the school on this. And so I'm sure that Sean will bring in the chief in on these conversations, along with the superintendent, to try and bridge some of these things together. I'm actually really excited about this because I feel like that all of our departments have an opportunity. I really do. I think that all the departments have an opportunity. I really do feel like PD though is going to have a large. They're interested in helping this new administration. This is the first year that they really got to. Last year, it still had some of the previous administration and the way that they were going. This year, they're going to funnel money to local cities and local localities rather than sending it to the state and to the counties. So there's opportunities for that, and that was one of our biggest thing is that since we're so small, like, we don't qualify for any of those funds from the county or from the state, and sometimes rightfully so. They feel like they can feel better if you can take care of 20,000 homeless folks in Fresno. It may seem to be better to spend the money there than it would be to come to Coalinga, but unfortunately, then that means we don't get any of the share. So this was very productive. I think it was huge. I want to invite other council members to experience it. We need to keep this moving forward. That way that everyone can be involved and whatnot, and maybe even some of the staff. I think that things with the DOJ, the chief could have really been right there on it. So I'm very excited for this, to be honest with you. I'm really excited moving forward that we're going to have, and Sean, could you, who was it, Joseph from Townsend? Was he the one that took notes?
Yes.
So he took notes so that Sean could actually be involved in the conversation. Benefit from Townsend, they gave probably pretty darn good notes, right?
Yeah, they did.
So that way,
full report.
So that way we have access to the portals, we have access to the timings, we have access to what we're available for. We asked all the right questions. Sean pretty much focused on the technical portion of it. The rest of us focused on the story of why it's important and why it makes a difference for Coalinga. Why should they focus on us? And we talked a lot about the PD. We talked a lot about our finance. We talked a lot about every agency that we have to make sure that they heard us and that they knew that it was important to give us. So,
and I'd just like to throw in there the school and park and recs too.
Yes.
Now for everyone.
Yep, we didn't leave anyone behind. And we told them we want to merge everything together in conversations to make sure. And so I'm actually really excited about this. I think, last time we went, with the gray, we got the 1 point something million to fix the hydroxide thing. That had been in works for quite some time, but I think it sealed the deal having us go up there. That in itself is worth it. But every year we go up there, we try and get some money from them. If they don't give it to us this time, we tell them thank you, and why is it important for next time? We just keep, moving forward with this. So, yeah, I'm really excited about it, and I think that Sean being able to share this stuff with staff is going to be really good. I'm sure some of the public safety stuff will fit into the fire as well. So, but do we need to have a vote or anything on that? No? And do you want to share anything else? No? We're good? No, let's pass it. Okay. All right. So we're going to move on then to item number, 6.4, and it's approved the award for the flooring project of City Hall, include council chambers and furniture moving.
Yes, this additional bid for the council chambers and the furniture moving was received after the agenda was posted. The initial quote did not include the council chambers. It was measured initially, but they had some staffing changes. And so when they were back out here, that was brought to our attention. So if we're doing the whole building, I think it's important to do the council chambers also. So there are 3 options here. Award the flooring project with the council chambers and furniture moving, or we could award the project with the council chambers, only replacing this center lighter carpet. This darker half would not be completed. Or we could award the project with just the furniture moving. I think it's important to go ahead and do everything at the same time. The outer darker area is not as worn, but if we wait a couple of years and do it at that time, our economy, cost increase, things like that, and I think it's good just to do everything at the same time. Now, if we do this, we will come back with a budget adjustment because it will go over the one-time project allocated amount, but it is a minimal amount to get this project done.
Council?
What's the amount?
So the amount for the council chambers and furniture moving is a total of $53,197.51 added to the $132 that was already approved. So overall, it would be $185,283.50. For this room, but that also includes the furniture moving. So that's the option for.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Furniture, which furniture are we talking about moving?
All of the
offices.
in all the offices.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Not this room. I'm sorry.
Move the chairs. That's fine.
Okay.
So the initial quote that we received did not have the furniture moving included in it. It was first proposed that Public Works would move the furniture as the offices are recarpeted or the flooring is done. However, this project will be done in phases, and it's not feasible to anticipate that Public Works would come and move the furniture out of the offices as they progress in the phases, because as we know, you discussed quite a bit, like water leaks, anything else going on, those projects that they're working on would be pushed to the side. So this one-time fee of moving the furniture in the 6 or 7 different phases just makes that.
So how much of that 53 is moving furniture?
20,000.
20, so it's 30 to do.
32
this, right?
to do the entire council
That includes
chambers.
the flooring here, the hallway, and everything back there.
Conference room.
The
Conference room's already included in that. The conference room's included in
the conference room and
My goodness, we're in the wrong business.
well, they have the equipment and to move that. As they move the furniture around, they will provide bins for storing items from offices as they move them and label them.
So I'm just going to point out that the council chambers in the past has definitely not been a point of contention, and we've allowed things to get run down. We went a long time with the same chairs, and it was really bad. And so we have made some minor improvements to the area. I personally am in favor of the fact that prices are not going to go down. Things are going to continue to go up. And so since we have the money, I think that we should do it, especially with Mai's talk about how much our general fund balance was. I think we should go ahead and do the whole thing. Yeah, right.
I'll echo that. I think it's a representation of the city. I think it's important to beautify it. Everything else looking good. Kalinga looks good. We all look good.
I mean, we're already having the work done for the rest of the building, so let's get it done.
Right.
You already approved that earlier.
Can I entertain a motion?
Motion to approve the extra cost added.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. We're going to move on to item number 6.5, which is council discussion of potential action, consideration of city endorsement of proposed, and it's called Measure C renewal plan, but obviously it won't be the same measure number. So, and I guess we have kind of two things to choose from. We have the one that we heard first, and then we have the one that we heard from Steve and Mr. Levin still here, and I appreciate you all staying here. I mean, if you everyone's looking at me, like I will tell you that I do.
You did sit there.
I did.
And did the time.
And I did the time, and I put in a lot of time. This was dang near a year of our time. And let me tell you, it was not fun. It was gruesome back and forth, spitting, yelling, screaming. It was literally screaming back and forth, and insults, which I didn't take part in, by the way, but there was insults left and right. And, Chuck, that's sitting, he put in a ton of his time as well. And here's the thing. What was it, 11 out of 15 mayors? 11 out of 15 mayors said yes. And the county just did not want to go with that. And yeah, the reason why, I'll be honest, is because it did get full of environmental justice folks that were added to the plate. But the reason for that was because they were going to kill the bill if we didn't add them to the plate. What they wanted to do was be added to the table. They said, bring us to the table. You guys can still make the decision. We did. I added like 4 pages of changes that they went and choked on, and they went ahead and did it. They made the changes. We got some flexibility into there. Yeah, it wasn't all wins. I mean, not everyone is in favor of the 25% for transportation. But we needed the key players, like they were saying. Fresno and Clovis. Fresno, it was a deal breaker if we couldn't get at least the same amount for transportation, because they are and he gave one of the best speeches on that I've heard. They have their school children that are riding these buses. So if they don't get that money, then those kids are not going to have a way to get to school, because the school districts don't have enough money to fund this scenario. So that was kind of heart-wrenching to us, and I'm glad that he gave it to us, because that put it into perspective. And the idea that, and we fought real hard for this, that Kalinga and other little cities could change the way that we access that transportation money and how we're going to move it around. That way that we can create something that will work good for us. And so I did not want, I've been asked for this endorsement on this, and I wanted to hold it back because I wanted to make sure it came from the city and not me. And then people would say the city went ahead and did it. But I am completely in favor of this process. We worked on it for a long time. I don't see that the other one is going to focus on the things that we want here in Coalinga. Yes, there is a huge disparity in between the amount of regional projects, but I think that's what people are unhappy with. People want to have our local roads fixed. We're going to be required to get a 70 PCI, which means that your roads are going to be in good shape. The local matches and stuff like that are really required in the other plan. There's a lot of flexibility in this one. So I went through this with a fine-tooth comb. I read it. I put it through AI. We looked through every little thing, and then we took it back and we went to war over this. And the fact that 93% of the folks in the in the steering committee, which included the environmental justice folks and the folks like Chuck that was on there, that to me spoke like. And we had a facilitator here. They fired a facilitator even. We had a new one. Right, so we went through a lot of hurdles for this, and I really like Tony, the guy that was here earlier, Tony Brin. He was the person that was in charge of COG, but I'll be honest, the last plan that they ran, it failed, and so they're going to try and run the same thing again. And a lot of the folks that are involved with that have financial interests, in my personal opinion, that they want to see areas expand and go outwards. So that's where a lot of this money will be spent. That's why developers are funding this. That doesn't help for us in Coalinga, and it doesn't help for the smaller towns. And that's where I think that we benefit from the plan that they have in front of us. And I think that's probably unfortunately why Tony left, is because I think he knew that we spent a lot of time on this, and it was all of us, Steve and Andy and myself and all the mayors and Chuck and everyone that was in there. And I've been wanting to say this for a while, but I've been holding my tongue because I didn't want I wanted to give both people an ability to give an unbiased thing. But now's the time, and I hope that we move forward with endorsing the Better Roads, Safer Streets, and that we agree that we're going to bring back the resolution as soon as possible to be voted on.
Can I ask Chuck to speak if he's got anything to add?
Absolutely.
He was part of it. I mean, he was part of it. So
yes.
I don't mind hearing it.
Do you care, Chuck?
You don't have a long talk.
We went back and forth on a few things, but overall, it went really smooth. I was really happy with the outcome. I really want to see these roads improved, so I was all for this project because it was.
Thanks, Chuck.
Nathan, you gave the Glenn Ross. I was reading through both, and it's apparent that, better roads and streets, it's a little bit more fluid for a smaller town. It's just, it's a little bit more fluid, and it's a little bit easier to understand too. So that's something to take in consideration.
If there's any more discussion, I would like to make a motion that we move forward with the Better Roads, Safer Streets, and bring back a resolution.
I would approve. I would motion that. Second, sorry.
Moved and seconded. Do we need a roll call or? We need a roll call vote.
Mayor Vosberg,
Aye.
Councilman Arroyo,
Aye.
Councilman Louder,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Schindler.
Aye.
And we'll bring that back April 2nd.
Thank you so much, and thank you both for be willing to follow our process and understand what's important to Coalinga, and thank you for all the work you guys have done. And thank you as well, Chuck, because you were in on it. Appreciate it. Oh. Sorry. All right, we're gonna move on to number 7, which is city manager's announcements.
I have a couple. Just wanted to update the council. We met with the school, myself met with the school and the chamber, or my chamber and I don't know how to say that, I'm late. On Wednesday to discuss the 4th of July event. So a lot of good positive discussion, just waiting on some information back from the school, but we'll have some confirmation hopefully soon on a venue for the 4th of July event. So we'll let you know as soon as we confirm that. We have secured contracts both for the fireworks for the 27th of June, and we have secured the contract for the drones for the 4th of July. So we have those taken care of. As soon as we confirm the venue for the drones, we'll be able to start working with them on getting all their FAA clearance and all of the strategic. And then I'll solicit some information if anybody has any specific types of drone features you guys are looking for. I was notified, and I know that I've reached out to you guys related to the Autism Awareness Walk at Keck Park on April 4th from 1 to 3 p.m. And then lastly, just a couple of dates, and then I'm going to let Greg make an announcement too, is we're starting to schedule our budget schedule for discussions. And we're looking to do a budget workshop on the week of May 11th. So if that's good, I'm going to try and set out, maybe I'll send out an email, we can confirm a date for that week to schedule a workshop. And then we're looking to do a special meeting for the most likely to be the adoption hearing for the budget on June 17th. Because of the Juneteenth holiday, we have to push back because that's going to end up falling on our council day. That June 17th would be the day that we would be looking to have a special meeting. So just wanted to make those, and then I'll send that in my email to you guys later, but just confirming we'll try to pick a date for the workshop. So I know sometimes it's hard to get everyone's calendar right now, but we can confirm those dates. And then Greg, you had an announcement?
Yeah, I just want to let you guys know that this Saturday, March 21st, we are doing our first Sound the Alarm event with Red Cross. Fire Department, Red Cross, and the Coalinga Gold Star Wellness Center are collaborating on installing smoke detectors in homes. We have about 50 to 60 homes, I believe, and 40 to 50 volunteers that day. So we'll be out and about in the community putting smoke detectors in homes as part of our prevention campaign.
Great. Okay. Council members' announcements and reports.
Hopefully he can make it out there, but if you have a half a day, Sean, Buddy, the city wants to go out and they'd be very welcoming. They'd love to have us. So if you'd like to go out there Saturday and Sunday, I can get you with Audrey and get you information. They'll get us a card, have some fun.
Any other council members' announcements and reports?
Parks, right? So you keep telling me, Mike. So, looking at Sandalwood and some of that new park facility for the playground there, a lot of it would, it gets really hot in Coalinga. Some of what I'm hearing is just like, the kids it's really hot in that playground. So it'd be nice to some of these playgrounds around town where we get a lot of usage in these parks to get some shade over them. And we had 3 years of good rain, and last year was beautiful, great weather. But this year's I mean, we're already 20 degrees above average.
Yeah.
So, you know, in these parks, we need to get some shade going big time, especially around the playgrounds. That's kind of my report.
You want to make that a future agenda item?
I would like to make that a future agenda item, please.
Just the city parks?
The city parks, yeah.
Any other council members' announcements and reports?
Speaking of my friends at the SCCA, I'd like to get a future agenda item on an update on approval for use of the airport.
Yeah, we can do that. We actually, I think, did I not? I think I had an update in the Monday update, but I can make sure.
Any others?
Comments or agenda items?
Comments. So I just want to say that, let's see, I think it's next week, we're going to ICSC, correct? We're going to meet with national retailers, we're going to meet with retail strategies, and we're going to network with other cities. It's going to be a great event. We'll probably talk to some developers. We have a couple of the developers that work closely with the city that will be attending as well. It's a great time for us to be able to network and to get to know them, and then also be able to express what's important about Coalinga. And so last time we went, we all went around to all the different booths, and we expressed to them how it was important for them to come to Coalinga. And amazingly enough, Retail Strategies had a great demographic sheet for us, so that we could discuss like what our population was, and also the areas surrounding us, so that, because when people just look at our general population, they may think, oh, you're not that big, but then when you include Avenel, Huron, through traffic of people coming in and out of the state hospital, those numbers can grow. And so that's what we'll be doing for a couple days down there, and that's the only announcement that I have. City Treasurer's announcements? Seeing none? Future agenda items? You already brought forth, and you want them to bring back some quote, or do you want us to do some research on what it would take, or? Perfect. Any others?
I have a couple agenda items. First, I would like to bring back the discussion about City Hall services open 5 days a week. However, we need to do that. I think it needs to be talked about. I don't want it to get on the back burner. Second, I'd like to talk about why the city bills are so inconsistent and how we can address this issue. And I saw that face. What I mean by inconsistent is 20 days, 40 days, whatever's going on here. We need to look at it and see if we can come up with a solution. Please. And that's it.
Any other future agenda items? No? All right, we're going to move into closed session, where we do have. We do have 4 items in closed session: real property negotiations, conference with labor negotiator, conference with legal counsel, and another real property negotiations. Do we plan on reporting anything out?
No, Mayor.
Nope. All right. This part of the meeting is adjourned.